Dr. CHRISSIE and Dr. SIVA PRIYA, shall I start, ma'am?
Ma'am, Mother, Dr. CHRISSIE.
Yeah, I am here. Yeah, I am here.
Join, yes, yes.
Yes,
Shall I
Okay.
begin the session, ma'am?
Yes,
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 ma'am, we
yes.
shall start. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. A very warm welcome again to an international conference on paradigm shifts in teaching, language, literature, and culture. I take it a privilege to welcome Dr. CHRISSIE GRACELYN David, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Women's Christian College, Nagercoil, and Dr. B. Shiva Priya, Assistant Professor, Department of English, SFR College, Sivakasi. Dr. CHRISSIE and Dr. Shiva Priya will be the chairpersons for the session and presenters. Before we begin the session, I kindly request you to pay attention. The presenters are requested not to read their papers, but only present. So you are allowed to give a PPT presentation, or you can present your paper without a PowerPoint presentation. The given time for each presenter would be 10 minutes, which includes off the question time, which is 2 minutes. So 8 minutes of presenting your paper and 2 minutes of questions from the chairperson and the rest of the participants and presenters. Dear presenters, kindly mute your mics and do not exceed the time limit. If the time limit is exceeded, the host will mute your mics to keep up with the time schedule. And towards the end of the session, a feedback link will be provided for the session. So kindly stay till the end of the session and do not exit the meeting soon after you finish your presentation. And the rest of the participants are requested to type their questions in the chat box. So the chairpersons will be asking the one who's presenting it. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, a very good afternoon to you all. I'm also indeed glad to be part of this 3-day Bodhi's International Congress on Paradigm Shift in Teaching, Language, Literature and Culture. Without wasting much time, we'll better enter into the first, we'll enter into the paper presentation session. And the first presenter is Mr. Solomon Paul Surendra Bondla. Mr. Solomon Paul Surendra Bondla.
Can I share my?
Yes, yes, please. Yes, please.
Audible, ma'am?
Yes, you're audible.
Just, actually, I was expecting, according to the schedule, mine is the second presentation. Actually,
the first person didn't turn up. That's why.
Fine. No issues, ma'am. No issues. Thank you. So, can you see the screen, ma'am?
Yes, you can.
So, good morning to you all, and I welcome to my presentation, and then I congratulate the Bodhi International Congress for organizing this. I'm Dr. Solomon Bondla from Saudi Arabia. I work in Jazani University as head of the Quality Assurance Unit and program English program. So my title of my presentation is "Oh Men, Patriarchy, a Culture Manifest" in the plays of Girish Karnad and Sam Shepard. So, as you know that patriarchy is a system of social structures and practices, as it was referred by Giddens, and it's a culture universal. No matter whatever the varying cultural contexts even you have, when you see the patriarchy as we consider as a culture universal, you have how the men subjugate women or exploit women or dominate women, whatever the terms that we use. It has a plenty of similarities. And another significant thing what we can see is men are always caught up in an inescapable framework of patriarchy. Even sometimes you are caught up in such a way, even if you want to come out of that, you will not be able to come out. This is what, because the patriarchy operates beyond all social, cultural, even gender basis. Even women at one point of time, they fall into the patriarchy and they exert the exploitation or subjugation to the other women. This is what usually we know this. And I just took this title, "Oh Men, Men, Men," from famous play of Bernard Shaw's Pygmalion, where it is in Act 2. The mother of Professor Higgins, Mrs. Higgins, looks at their naive attempt to, in order to educate Eliza, in order to, they fail to see that she is an independent entrepreneurial woman, but whereas they wanted to give her an education by shining her, pruning her, or making her presentable. Through that, they put her into a physical and emotional and mental trauma. This is what they usually, they do that. As a vexed, as out of a frustration, she uses this word, "Oh men, men, men." I felt this is a very apt title for my research. This is what I have put this in this particular present study. If you look at, I try to look at the two different contexts of cultural context of Indian cultural context and then American cultural context, where from India I have taken Girish Karnad plays like Hayavadana, Nagamandala, Fire and the Rain, and then Bali, the Sacrifice. Whereas on the other side of the American context, I took the Sam Shepard's plays of Fool for Love, A Lie of the Mind, and A Buried Child. These are the plays that I have studied. And basically, when you see patriarchy in and of the family, when you say patriarchy versus family, so actually, in fact, patriarchy is one of the, as Millet says, patriarchy's chief institution is family. This is what he tries to say, because families' relationships, because of this patriarchy, families' relationship is at stake. The violence, cruelty, and the sacrifice at different levels are woven into the fabric of these particular plays. And you can see the rule of father is one of the key elements of male domination by Mitchell. That's what he referred to that, and that we can see in these plays. And be it in these characters, be it fathers, husbands, brothers, whoever it may be, they all behave like a typical men. So when you see that, that's why very popularly, more popularly, we can use this term. Sam Shepard uses the term called male king in many of his plays. So which is equally equivalent to something like what Walby says as a patriarchal gaze. So this is how they look at that. And in these plays, in my paper, because as it is a presentation was given only 8 minutes of time, I may not be able to go into any of these details. Just but Girish Karnad's plays, whether it is in Hayavadana, Devadatta, or in Nagamandala, Appanna, or Mahout in Bali and the Sacrifice, the other Sam Shepard's plays, they all use excessive forces of violence. And they beat wives, they beat the daughters. This is, they exert a lot of physical violence on their characters. That's what we can see in these characters. And then a father figure as a symbol of patriarchy. We can see actually, usually the father figure, it needs to be traditionally overpowering and dominating. That we can see. We can see the father figures are very rude, selfish, domineering, and scheming in their character. Neither they are good fathers nor good husbands. They fail in both these plays that we can see, whether it is Yayati's father who asked the age of his son to him, and then Paravasu's father as a Rabia, and whether it is Western or Baylor in Sam Shepard's. So all these people, they ill-treat and insult, and then they beat the other counterparts. So the entire the plays of these playwrights, though they come from two different cultural contexts, though different phases, they always they are strewn with these kind of characters and incidents. This is what one of the tragedies of our the family that operates. That's why you see Rabia always the father, he's not only he is subjugating his son's wife, even he looks at with a she, that's what she claims, my father-in-law looks at me with a lust for me. And then he's always at loggerheads with his son. Even then when his son becomes the chief priest by the king, and then the male ego is insulted, and it was and then he starts behaving more tyrannical. This is what this kind of a characters they happen. And the father figures continue in one of the statements in Sam Shepard's plays. And then he says, a lie of the mind, he says, the father says, and he looks at one of his son and says, another invalid, a house of full invalids, and I will be the only left in this joint that can function. So this is the kind of an attitude these fathers they show in this place. So in my conclusions, what I was trying to look at these plays, what was the purpose of looking at this is, in my conclusions, I was trying to ask certain fundamental questions. Is a family a failed institution? Is a family a failed institution? Because one of the greatest institutions that civilization has brought in is the family. This is what one of the greatest institutions, no matter what it is, the family is, everybody agrees that. Because that's the reason he says, when Millett says patriarchy is the chief institution is the family, and what is happening? Is the family as an institution, is it a failed one? That's what he says. If you look at strangely, in the family, what happens is not only men dominate women, men dominate other men. At the same time, women also dominate the women. This is what we have at one certain stage of time, when a daughter-in-law becomes a mother-in-law, altogether the parameters, the rules and game, everything changes. So she becomes, though she's a woman, she becomes a part of the patriarchy, and she starts. So this is the kind of a thing what we see in the realistic terms. And institution as a family, which is meant to propagate, preserve the human societies, on the other hand, it fails to neutralize and believe it to have been done the brutality and animality of the men. So this is what it has failed in these aspects. Even when we see this, when you see this, all aspects of life, even the family tries to individual free aspect of life is been completely curtailed in the families. This is what the perversion, the other side, darker side of the family, I was trying to explore in this particular paper. And looks at like the members of the family are made into a bonsai plants. They were not fully grown openly as an independent individual. That's not being done. And if you look at that, it makes them more animals than before. Once you are into the part of the family, it makes them cruel humans and animals, but mostly and in a refined form. Though the techniques and the methods though the refined form, but ultimately that animality and then that cruelty that lies at the core of this. So as an institution, family, is it a failed institution? That's what I try to make certain questions in this. And that's the reason the whole relationship of the family is at stake. The relationship of the family is at stake. Be it one of the primary relationship at stake is wife and husband's relationships. So once you are entangled into the patriarchy, then be it the father and the son and all, making children into a bonsai, or making the other relations into the bonsai, subjugating them, all these things, the other side of the institution, that's what I try to explore. And that's the reason when you look at this, they end up hurting each other endlessly, these characters, one another in this place. This is the aspect I try to highlight in my particular paper. And I ended the paper with a question of whether the family, which is considered as one of the propagating and preserving in the human society, is it really hurting the human individual? This is what the question I ended my paper with. Thank you. Thank you. This is my presentation. If you are, I'm open for questions. If you, I don't know whether I have exceeded my time. I don't know.
Yeah, audience, if you have any questions, you may just ask now. And Kanyakumari says, only fathers are not symbols of patriarchy. The all men in the world are symbols of patriarchy in some way or the other.
Undoubtedly, undoubtedly. Thank you, ma'am. In fact, that is true. That's the reason I just took the example of, because the shortened time of this paper, and I took the symbol of only the father. That's why I said, be it husbands, men, be it husbands or fathers or brothers, men are men. So this is how, even in that, even women also includes. That's what I say. I say patriarchy operates beyond the social, cultural, even gender basis. Even women become. That's what I gave you the example. Women, when they pass, become from daughter-in-law to the mother-in-law, all the rules, the rubrics, game, everything changes. So they also become part of the patriarchy, and they try to subjugate. This is how the patriarchy, how it is. The whole thing is, it's no more a gender issue there at all. So they become men. So we are talking about not the biological men or women. We are talking about the gender issues of men and women. Undoubtedly, ma'am.
Yes, that was indeed a good presentation. And SIVA PRIYA ma'am, shall we just move on to the other one, or audience, we have any other questions? Or ma'am, we have, yes.
I feel let's move to the next presentation, ma'am. Sir,
Yeah.
very nice, well presented, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, SIVA PRIYA ma'am, will you just read out the next
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Next, I'll call upon Dr. Arun Kumar Singh, Assistant Professor, SSGR, Government College, Saragon, Chhattisgarh. Dr. Arun Kumar Singh, please proceed, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir, you're audible. Dr. Arun Kumar?
Yes.
Yes, you may continue.
Now
You may proceed.
I'm going to present my paper, Kalidas Abhigyan Shakuntalam, a critical study. Kalidas is the most radiant star in the firmament of classical Sanskrit literature. He is renowned not only for the excellence of the individual works, but also for his multi-dimensional talent. He is a great dramatist, a meritorious writer of epic, and a lyric poet of extraordinary scope. He is the master of Sanskrit language, and in his hands, the language achieved a significant flexibility, becoming an instrument capable of expressing sundry moods and nuances of feeling. A language that is mellifluous and flowing, musical, uncluttered by the prolixity and verbose indulged in by many writers who imitated him, yet remaining a language loaded in every rift with the rich ores of the literary and mythical elusiveness of his cultural legacy. He mingled different elements to create new genres, and his importance as an innovator in the history of Sanskrit literature is conspicuously established. For nearly 2 millennia, Kalidas' works have been appreciated for the exquisite craftsmanship of the verse and other qualities. The poet received ample success, reputation, and affluence during his lifetime. We find no hint of dissatisfaction in his works, no sign of resentment at not receiving due recognition. Yet, we do not get any information about him, his life, and the times in which that life achieved immortal power, that his life achieved immortal power and glory. Kalidas has composed 7 works, 3 long lyrical poems, The Gathering of the Season, the birth of the sun, the cloud messenger, Malvika and Agnimitra, Urvashi owned by Valor, the recognition of Shakuntala, and an incomplete epic, Raghuvansam. His poems and plays are mainly based on the Vedas, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and the Purans. The dramas of Kalidas are famous classics in world literature and deal with several themes such as the theme of bravery and politeness, the theme of fate and fortune, the theme of friendship, the theme of love and romance. The Mal Vikagni Mitram is the first drama of Kalidas. It is a drama in 5 acts based on a love intrigue set on foot. It describes the love tale of King Agnimitra and Mal Vika. The play gives a graphic description of the Rasuy sacrifice performed by Pushmit Sunga and a detailed exposition of a theory on music and acting. I have discussed 2 or 3 plays, but the paper deals with the theme of Abhigyan Shakuntalam. So I'm going to deal with the theme of Abhigyan Shakuntalam. Out of the 3 plays of Kalidas, the Abhigyan Shakuntalam is generally regarded as a masterpiece and a marvelous work of art. It is a beautiful tale of love and romance. It moves in several words and it touches upon different planes of consciousness. It projects a clear poetic vision. It expresses a pensive and reflective tone, and there is a fairy tale element in it. The story of Sakuntala and Dushyant in the Mahabharata is the main source for the play of Kalidas. In the Mahabharata, Sakuntala is portrayed as a fiery and spirited girl who fights tenaciously for her son's rights. She literally reads the law to the king, and when she finds him obdurate, she gives him a powerful tongue lashing. The
Pardon me,
story
sir, Dr.
depicts,
Arun Kumar Singh.
yes,
Sir, kindly please do not read your paper. You're asked to present your paper, sir.
I'm asked to.
Present it and not read it from the paper.
Acha, I have to present the paper.
If there is no PPT, it's all right, sir. Just please talk about the paper and do not read from the paper.
Okay, okay,
Thank you, sir.
okay. Oh. Dushyant falls in love with Sakuntala at first sight. He goes to a jungle. He sees Sakuntala. Sakuntala is the daughter of nature. She is a symbol of beauty. She is a symbol of ecstasy. She is a symbol of heaven on earth. The poet gives beautiful descriptions about the beauty, charm, and graciousness of Shakuntala. Shakuntala lives in the jungle. She enjoys the charms and sweets of life. One day, Dushyant goes to the jungle. He sees Shakuntala and he falls in love at first sight. So it is a love story at first sight. He meets Shakuntala, he marries her, and he gives a token of love. And he says that I am the king of a kingdom. I'll go back. I'll do my duty. I will perform my duties. So I will have to leave you. But you come to my kingdom, I'll see you and I will accept you. One day, Sakuntala is lost in her dreams. She is lovelorn. A sage comes there, and Sakuntala is not able to receive the sage. So the sage loses his temper. He curses her. You have not given me proper respect, so I curse you. When you go to see your husband, he will fail to recognize you. He will not see you. He will not be able to recognize you. Sakuntala asks for forgiveness. She is very distressed. She says, I am sorry. I could not pay proper attention to you. So please forgive me. The sage forgives her. And he says that when you go to your husband and when you show the token of love to your husband, he will remember you. Dushyant goes back to his kingdom. Just see, he falls in love with Sakuntala. It's a romantic love. But when he goes back to his kingdom, he forgets Sakuntala. Here, I remember the lines of Robert Frost. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Dushyant loves Sakuntala. His heart is full of romantic love, but he does not forget himself in the dream of romantic love. When he comes to his kingdom, he remembers his duties. He performs his duty towards the kingdom. He pays serious attention to the welfare of the people of his kingdom. So he is very much engaged with the royal work, and he forgets Sakuntala. So there is some sort of conflict between the theme of love and the theme of duty. Sakuntala comes to Dushyant. When she appears before Dushyant, Dushyant is not able to remember Sakuntala. Sakuntala has lost the ring somewhere. Suddenly, a fisherman comes and he gives the ring to Sakuntala, and Sakuntala shows the ring to Dushyant, and Dushyant is able to remember Sakuntala. But Kalidas puts a serious question. For Sakuntala, love is simply love. It is pure. It is spiritual. It is undiluted. But for Dushyant, love does not matter. The token of love matters. We remember Shakespeare's Othello. For Desdemona, love is always pure. Love is always platonic. But the husband, Othello, wants a proof. And the handkerchief wants a proof of loyalty, a proof of pure love. And he demands the handkerchief. Dushyant demands the ring. This shows the patriarchy, or in the views of feminism, MCP. They are not able to give proper respect to their wife. Dushyant is unable to recognize Sakuntala. Othello is unable to believe in the loyalty of Desdemona. Both demand the proof of love. And here, Kali Das opposes patriarchy, male dominance. He says women must be given proper importance, proper value, and they should be worshipped. They should be respected. And lastly, Dushyant realizes in the beginning of the drama, Sakuntala is an object of pleasure. She is a flower, a blooming flower. She is just like an ornament. She is just like a jewel. She is an object of physical pleasure. But at the end of the play, Dushyant realizes the intrinsic beauty of Sakuntala. Sakuntala is not an object of pleasure. She is a symbol of spirituality. She is a symbol of dedication, of sacrifice, of benevolence, a symbol of generosity and magnanimity. And Dushyant and Sakuntala meet and they produce the real hero, Bharat, who becomes the king of India and he rules over India. And the name Bharat comes from his name, Bharat. So the two great souls come on the surface of the world, of the earth, come on the surface of India, and they are able to give a unique hero to India, and India becomes all powerful during the regime of Bharat. This is all about Sakuntala. Any question, please?
Your audience, if you have any questions, you may just ask.
Excuse me?
Audience, if you have any questions.
Yeah, any question from audience?
Thank you very much, Dr. Arun Kumar Singh. Dr. Shiva Priya, do you have any questions?
No, ma'am. Sir, well presented, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
So we'll better move on to the next participant. The next participant is Mr. S. Muhammad Shafiullah, Assistant Professor, PVKN, Government College, Andhra Pradesh. Mr. Muhammad Shafiullah, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
You may begin your presentation, sir. Sir, please don't exceed 8 minutes.
Sure. I will try.
You may begin your presentation, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. For my presentation today, I have taken Hindi playwright, story writer, and novelist. My name is Premchand. My voice is audible now. Is it okay?
Yes, sir. It is audible, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm presenting my paper on Premchand, and Premchand was a Hindi and Urdu writer, poet, novelist. He was born on 31st July 1880 in Lamahi near Varanasi, Uttar Pradesh, and his real name was Dhanpat Rai Srivastava. He writes his stories, novels under the pen name initially as Nod Rai. Later he switched to his original, his name and Premchand wrote more than a dozen novels, about 250 stories, and several essay translation of a number of foreign literary works, and which includes novels also in Hindi and Urdu. I have taken for this presentation four short stories by Munshi Premchand. One is Kafan, and second one Poski Rag, and third one Lidga, and the fourth one Thakur Ka Kuwa. And the last one, Bodhi. So these are the translations of Hindi and Urdu short stories into English. And in these stories, Premchand, portrayed the element of social realism. It seemingly became the background content of all his stories. His writings are concerned with those who are leading a life of a miserable life, a life of parentless living, a life with poverty, a life with hunger, illiteracy. Then he also talks about disadvantaged sections of the society and the life and lives of hawkers and a day life and a life of childless age people. He also talks about, he deals these themes and characters and dealing with the poorest of the poor, story after story is what he has written throughout his career. Now I'll concentrate the first story that comes from his pen, that is Kafan. Kafan is a white cloth that is used for which is used to be white cloth used to be used for covering the dead body of a dead body. So it is the dead body of that is a cloth in the story. It is a heart-touching story. It narrates the emotions and struggles of a father by name Gishu and his son Mother. Both are lazy, and both spend their time without having any work. And they even did not show any concern to a pregnant wife of Madhav, who is on the verge of death when the story begins. Both the father and son take up menial job to support their dire needs and forget the pregnant wife of Madhav. And the story goes on, and one day the wife of Madhav dies on the bed with her pregnant child. So it is very pathetic, and even after the death of her wife, the amount that they collected for cremation and to buying a coffin for the dead wife, they use that money also for drinking and eating purpose only. So that is where the story, very relevant, and talks about the times of pre-independence India, and where we move to tears when we see this, when we read these kind of stories. And even the death of a woman doesn't change their attitude and the behavior. They go for drinking from the amount they collected for the cremation of the pregnant woman. Then another story, it is also a very touching story of Premchand, that is Eidgah. Eidgah means it's a place set aside for prayers during Eid times of Muslims. So it is a commonly accepted place for performing prayers during festivals of Muslims. So it is another touching story of a parentless 5-year-old kid by name Hamid. He lives with his grandmother after he lost his parents. His grandmother is extremely poor, and she is barely able to provide him with food and clothing. During the time of Eid, everyone from the village goes for prayers, and after the prayers, they buy a lot of toys for themselves and for their relatives also. But this kid, Hamid, being very poor, can't able to buy all those things that whatever it's buying there. But here, the maturity and the manners of the kid comes out. Whatever the other kids buying for themselves, but this kid buys a tongue for her grandmother. Her grandmother cooks very difficult on the, he sees the difficulty of her mother, but due to that, he wishes he could have more money like his friends, but he could not. Instead of buying a toy for himself, he bought a pair of tongs for his grandmother so that she doesn't burn her hands while cooking for him. Due to the act of Hami's sacrifice, uh, sacrifice of his toys for a pair of tanks for his grandmother, makes everyone shed tears. Everyone is pleased with Hamid, who act with a sense of attachment and responsibility towards, his grandmother. So it is also a story of a child which moves us into tears. It is also a story of a have-not, Hamid. Then I move on to another story of French, and it is also a very touching story. Who's Kirat? Who's Kirat means it is a Hindi word for a chilly night in the month of December or January. Who's means is chilly, and Rat means night, so chilly night. And in this story, it is about a Hauku and his wife Muni. It is the story of these two characters who are very poor and very poor farmer and used to cultivate a small bit of land. Puskiroth is a heart-touching story of a farmer by name Haku, I already told. And seeing that there is no option to buy, he waits for to buy a blanket for himself for a long period of time. But because of his the condition, because of his poverty, he is not able to buy a single blanket also. So the thought of saving at least some money for the chilly night, so that winter is supposed to come after 2 months. So, but the circumstance in which he was and the way he tries to survive the chilly nights with a tattered blanket fills our eyes with tears. He used to sleep every night near his piece of cultivated land to safeguard his crop from animals. One night, the firing night, one night, all the crop had been burned and becomes dust. The scene was pathetic in the morning when wife and husband recalls how they worked hard to safeguard their crop for months. And what now they are seeing now becomes a really pathetic thing. So here, whatever the amount that has been saved for buying a blanket also given away to a person who has given them money when they are need of. So they are left with no money, they are left with no crop now to harvest also. So such is the plight of the poorest of the poor living in pre-independence period, and that has been captured in a very nice manner through the stories of Premchand. Thus, Premchand was a great story writer who creates heart-touching stories with a message and who portrays pan-India conditions prevailing during the pre-independence era. Then another story that I have taken in my presentation is Thakur Ka Kuwa. Thakur means is the land god and Kuwa is a well, and it is a heart-touching story about the conditions of Dalits during the pre-independence period. The story realistically depicts the pathetic conditions of Dalits and the poor people and show how they were put to atrocities by the landlords and the local chieftains. In the story, Dalits were denied drinking water from the well of the upper caste people. It is a story of a Dalit woman by name Gangi and her husband Jhoku. So in the village, people have to dig wells to have water, but the Dalits have a different, separate wells, and the upper caste people have separate wells in the village. It so happens that the ailing, Gangi's ailing husband one day asked for a pitcher of water, and when Gangi prepares to fetch a pail of water from the nearby well of their community, but she sees that a carcass was animal carcass had been found in the well, and it is not drinkable. So from the well of Dalits. So he asks everyone
Sir,
from the upper caste
Mr.
people to
Mohammed,
have water. That's right.
sir, it's 10 minutes. Time's up. Can you please conclude?
Yes,
Thank you, sir.
yes. So it is also a story of Dalits and how they have been persecuted and how they have been put to atrocities. So they are not very much concerned. So how these people have been treated, and how Premchand have been treated story after story about these have-nots. And I conclude with these remarks. Premchand occupies an important position in the history of Hindi and Urdu literature. He reshaped the genre of short story with its realistic portrayal and in-depth characterization. He always set poor and destitute people, the lives of the downtrodden and neglected sections of the society, impoverished, poverty-stricken people, and form part of his stories. He had thorough understanding of the conditions that were prevailing under the British rule and the lives of the people in the society with all its discriminations, vices, and injustices. In his short stories, he makes use of local language, idioms, and customs, and thus make a realistic picture to his writings. So to the core, he was a realistic writer with a purpose in his mind. He never writes for popularity and always tried to take the side of the common man and his language. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Sir, indeed, it was an elaborate presentation, and thank you, sir. Any queries from the audience? Audience, if you have any questions, please type it in the chat box. Thank you, sir. Well presented. GRACELYN, ma'am? Any questions do you have, ma'am? Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me call upon the next presenter of this session. May I call Lakshina Dukan Marbinam, a PhD scholar, Northeastern Hill University, Meghalaya, and Lalunsanga Ralit, Assistant Professor, Martin Luther Christian University. The platform is yours. Welcome.
Okay, hello. Yeah, so the paper that we are presenting is a reading and teaching of folklore through indigenous holistic theory. So far today, like especially with the morning sessions, we've had a more practical, talking more about practical paradigm shifts in teaching, and the thing we're going to present is a far more subjective one. So we have a presentation, and I hope you will all follow it, and I hope you find this interesting. So, storytelling, an encyclopedia of mythological and folklore, explains that the genre of folklore predates written literature and can be broken down into the following categories: folk tales, nursery rhymes, and some nonsense rhymes, myths, religious stories, epics, ballads, fables, and legends. These are the paradigms which have inspired stories all around the world, widening the potential of storytelling today with the vast expanse of imaginative opportunity in the roots of tradition. Okay, one of the major definitions of folklore is there on your screen. I'm sure you can read it yourself. I'll just keep going on with the presentation. Now, folklorist Alan Dundes has spoke about that we get beyond the popular urge to romanticize law. His cause was to confront the harsh realities in expressive traditions towards the twin goals of knowing ourselves internally, that is psychologically, and externally or socially and politically, and righting wrongs in the world. Dundes did not think of traditions as a relic of the past and often looked to the lectern to show that folklore was very much part of modern technology. Now, European folklore typically follows the style of the hero's journey, which entails the hero entering into a physical, spiritual, and psychological endeavor to finally conclude with a race consciousness. This new consciousness attained by the hero enables him or her to impart the newly gained wisdom with the rest of the world, therefore deeming his journey a success. European folklore, and largely its philosophies and aesthetics, revolve around placing man at the center and above anything else in his surroundings. Second only to God, the conquest and the taming of his environment is consistent with the stories and tales from across Europe. This is vastly different from indigenous folklores that speak of a more organic relationship and cohabitation. A European reading of such does not do justice to the philosophies and aesthetics they imply. So a rereading is necessary to fully comprehend not just the tales themselves, but the beliefs and worldviews of the people that tell them. Now, indigenous theories provide for a more accurate reading of such folk tales. It works in decolonizing thoughts and approaches to the interpretation of such tales. According to Kathy Absalom, in Indigenous Holistic Theory, a knowledge set for practice, she states, indigenous peoples have worldviews and means of relating to the world. Stemming from the worldview comes the understanding that we are all related. Indigenous theory is rooted intimately within indigenous epistemologies, worldviews, cultures, and traditions. Indigenous holistic theory is holistic and multi-layered, which encompasses the spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical elements of being. We also acknowledge our past, present, and future. By that very nature, we must look to the past and into our future, and indigenous theory factors in 7 generations past and the 7 generations into the future. It forms a framework to indigenize our thoughts and action into active healing processes that simultaneously decolonize and indigenize. Now, using such an approach to analyze indigenous folk tales reveal a deeper connection between man and his environment in many folk traditions, including that of the Khasis in Meghalaya. Now, the Khasi folk tales are deeply rooted in tradition. One of its most famous writers that we have still present is Kimpam Singh Nankundri, and he has written these quotes about Khasi storytelling and Khasi folklore. He says, "We are a storytelling people. Ours is a culture that worships God through respect for both man and nature, and all animals and animated things as creations of God, and that we are equal to each other. We see the whole universe as a cosmic whole, and we have many stories of creation, origin tales, explanatory tales, trickster tales, love and tragedy, moral tales, horror and supernatural, tale of the human kings and queens, hills, rivers, and waterfalls." They give explanations to describe the function of life, the history of the people, giving an insight to origins, survival, coexistence, and the organic phenomenon that is formed. The Khasi tales are animistic and anthropomorphic in nature, which indicates further the sense of coexistence and balance between living beings and their surroundings. Now, an example from the stories themselves.
The tale of Ser Lapalang, also translated as The Death of Lapalang, follows a naive and trusting young stag who disobeys his protective mother and requests him not to venture close to the village of men. But his curiosity, vanity, and lack of obedience leads him to a fatal end. Anthropomorphic in nature, this tragic tale illustrates the dire consequences of curiosity and wanting too much. Here, his vanity and destruction of the crops brings him into conflict with the humans, who eventually kill him. It concludes with a mother deer's painful lament over the loss of her son. The tale puts the animal at the center of the story and humans as the other. It highlights the destructive nature of man and how the mother's fearfulness of them serves as a critique on the bloodlust present in humankind. This flips the common theme of the noble hero man conquering the wild and uncivilized. The mother's woeful lament at the end affected even the humans, eliciting regret and thus attributing emotions of pain and loss to the animal kingdom. This tale is representative of the deep respect that the Khasis have for nature. It is usually not permissible to hunt for game or sport. A valid reason must be given for the hunting, and this reason is highlighted in the traditional song, also a poem, called Pawar, which is sung after the hunt. Hunting during spring season is also not done in many Himas villages, as this is believed to be the mating season of most animals. Pregnant animals also are not killed. The concept of a reserved forest has long existed with the Khasis, and they are called Laukentang, translated as sacred groves. No living creature, including trees and bush, may be harmed in such forests. In the modern age of ongoing issues and debates of how hunting has caused loss of species and biodiversity, there is much to be learned from such traditional philosophies. Another tale, which is often depicted in several cultures, is the explanation of how the eclipse came into existence. The tale Bam Hindra Upanai, or also translated as Kanam and the Tiger, starts with a girl who's being kidnapped by the tiger, who eventually holds her captive, and she's then assisted by a mouse to escape, who leads her to a magician toad who assumes that this toad will help her. But the toad tricks her and tries to enslave her. Eventually, she's once again saved by the little mouse, who takes her to the blue realm, where she meets Kasni, the sun goddess. There's then a battle between Hindra, the giant toad, and Kasni, where the Hindra tries to consume the toad. The Sni, and that is the cause of the eclipse. Later, during this battle, the humankind saw this battle between the sun and the Hindra, the toad, and they come out and they come to the defense of the sun goddess, participating in it and eventually freeing her of the clasps of the giant toad. Though the human is seen as a center focus of the tale, the main dynamics are provided by the animals and nature surrounding her. In Khasi folk tales, the tiger is often viewed as a foreboding figure, and some tales depict the tiger as a human with the ability to shapeshift. In this tale, the specific agreement Ukla, the tiger, made based on the gender of the child reflects the matrilineal society of the Khasis, where the youngest daughter is the caretaker and custodian of the family inheritance. The tale does not incorporate a Prince Charming that saves her, but rather a mouse who normally would be of no real significance, and by the sun, the ruler of the universe. The role of savior and defender are given both to the mouse and the sun, despite their size and responsibility, which depicts the respect Khasis have for every part of nature. Every individual has a part to play in the cycle of life, creating an impact of their own. The kidnapping, imprisonment, slavery, and dispute are a few of the greatest flaws of mankind, but by saving the sun goddess by mankind, it depicts hope in the times of conflict. This tale is an example of the balance that is frequently focused on the indigenous folk tales. Mankind living in coexistence with nature, none as seen as superior or dominating the other. There is equality in the relationships and cooperation between the various species of different realms. This exemplifies the importance and brings attention of how the maintenance of these interconnections is crucial to create a harmonious environment. The multi-layered relationships cannot exist without the other. In holistic indigenous theory, the self is at the center of the sphere, which is then surrounded by family, community, nation, society, and is eventually encompassed by creation. A lack of understanding of this wholesome interrelationship creates an imbalance. The concept of coexistence proves as a sample of how, I quote, as educators, it is critical that we provide children with literature that expands their knowledge, that portrays diversity. This is taken from Debbie Reese's essay, Proceed with Caution, using Native American folktales in the classroom. Indigenous folktales create a platform.
I beg your pardon. Time's up, ma'am. Can you please conclude?
Yeah, it's the last part. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, please.
Indigenous folktales create a platform where issues such as representation, misrepresentation, the importance of correct depictions are expressed. It exemplifies the importance of relatability and link between all life and elements. They enable a curiosity to develop an understanding of roots and culture, which leads to the crucial end result, awareness. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well presented, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Any questions from the participants? Participants, do you have any questions to ask?
Yeah, I would like to appreciate the effort they've taken to present this, right? It was highly informative and quite interesting too. All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for presenting.
Thank you so much.
And now may I now call upon Dr. Paul Krupakar, Assistant Professor, Dr. Abdul Haq, Urdu University, Andhra Pradesh. Dr. Paul Krupakar, Assistant Professor, Dr. Abdul Haq, Urdu University, Andhra Pradesh. Dr. Paul Krupakar, are you there? Dr. Paul Krupakar, I think it's not there. Is he there?
No, ma'am, I think he's not there. Yes.
Okay. Better we move on to the next the candidate then.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. P. Venkatesha, Assistant Professor, Government First Grade College, Karnataka. Mr. P. Venkatesha, Assistant Professor, Government First Grade College, Karnataka. Siva Priya ma'am, I think he's also not there.
Yes, ma'am. He is also not here. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Then Dr. S.B. Bradard, Associate Professor, SPM Art, Science and Commerce College, Ikal, Karnataka. Are you there, sir?
Yeah. Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
yes, sir. You're audible enough, sir.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes.
Well.
Yes, sir. You may begin your presentation. Yes, you may begin your presentation, sir.
Thank you. Well, my topic of presentation is displacement and search for identity in Bharati Mukherjee's The Tiger's Daughter. The aim of this paper is to explore the cultural displacement and search for identity as a significant phenomenon of diasporic literature in the multicultural and multidimensional context with reference to Bharati Mukherjee's novel, The Tiger's Daughter. Before going to take up the novel, it is better to have a look on diaspora conditions and why these diaspora writers are haunted by displacement and search for identity. So the displacement of culture captures psyche due to migration to diasporic writers. Migration from one's original homeland to foreign land reveals the diasporic experience. People migrate for various reasons, such as food, academics, employment, trade, commerce, better life opportunities, freedom and faith, which they lack on in their homeland, and hopes for their good future in the adopted land. So, migration sets the people in an alien cultural tradition and is provided with interstitial space in the alien land. It also leads to conflict or synthesis of different cultures. One advantage of this displacement is that the hybrid culture evolving of hybrid culture. So cultural synthesis is possible along with cultural conflict due to difference in customs, traditions, beliefs, norms, values, language of expatriate. They are deeply affected. Well, the power of social conventions, cultural norms, and customs, the rapid change in social value system in their migrated country creates a problem and crisis in the psyche of the individuals. Hence, diaspora community is uprooted from their tradition, custom, and practices from their homeland. So, in this context, let us take up Bharati Mukherjee's Tiger's Daughter. Okay, Tiger's Daughter, published in the year 1971. It is her first novel, which explores her alienated self during her early stay in Canada with her husband for a decade. The novel represents many of her autobiographical details. She shares her experience of writing her debut novel in an interview with Jaideep, where she says, I quote, "My first novel, The Tiger's Daughter, embodies the loneliness I felt but could not acknowledge even to myself as I negotiated the no man's land between the country of my past and the continent of my present. Shaped by memory, textured with nostalgia for a class and culture I had abandoned, this novel quite naturally became an experience of the expatriate consciousness." Unquote. It is her experience of an individual who caught between traditional customs of India, from which she has emigrated, and her present experience with the more westernized culture of America. Commenting on the novel, Abha Pandey, she writes, I quote, "Bharati Mukherjee has shown dual cultural shock. This migration or cultural transplant leads to a crisis of identity and final reconciliation to the choice. She has presented a fascinating study of the problem of a displaced person in America as well as India." Unquote. So, with this background, let us go into the details of the novel, where the protagonist of the novel is Tara Banerjee. She is none other than Bharati Mukherjee herself. It is very, it has many autobiographical tones in this novel. She is a young Brahmin woman of 22, is a daughter of Bengal Tiger, the owner of a famous Banerjee and Thomas Tobacco Company Limited. Her grandfather is Harilal Banerjee. So the entire family background tells us that it has a very ancestral family through very deeply rooted in culture, traditions, beliefs, practices of these kind of age-old practices, social practices in the family. And such a traditional cultural person immigrating herself to Canada. wherein she came in contact with two cultural conflicts, like Indian culture on the one hand, the other on the American or Canadian culture on the other. So the very first instance where she goes and meets various people in Canada, she comes to know that a very wide difference between two cultures and the traditions, both traditions, etc. Well, she meets her husband accidentally. His name is David Cartwright at the Greyhound bus station, and later she marries him. She knows very well her husband is foreign. She is hesitant to share her nostalgic feelings of her family and country with him. So the husband is a Canadian and she is an Indian. So this, the entire everyday activities takes place between the husband and wife are of conflict, because many questions of David about Indian culture, customs, traditions make her more insecure and more alienated. Well, this haunting displacement invariably reminds of her home. Tara Banerjee plans a trip to India after 7 years of her stay in America. She believes that her return to homeland would wipe off all her problems of displacement and alienation. But unfortunately, when she comes back to India, she finds it more difficult to find out her identity in the native country also. The experiences of Bombay airport, the railway station, the surrounding people, the journey to Calcutta, and the people in the railway compartment, Howrah railway station, vendors and beggars on the railway platform of Howrah disappoint Tara Banerjee. It is a mockery on her nostalgic feelings, which she had long cherished in America. She writes about her returning to India. I quote, "She was frightened by the capacity for anger over trivial encounters. She stared out of the window to avoid watching the night ablutions of her companions. I have returned to dry holes of the sides of railway tracks. She thought to brown fields like excavations for 1,000 homes." Unquote. This appears in page number 21 of the novel. So the entire novel, gives invariably these incidents of India as well as Canada, where the cultural conflict is insights of cultural conflict are given, and along with that, the displacement, haunting of that displacement continues. To quote one more example here, the visit of Tollygunge also disappoints her. She behaves like a foreigner with Jayanto Roy, another character. The journey to Tollygunge for Tara is highly obnoxious. So the entire novel goes with these kind of incidents and experiences. The novel ends with a note on riots and demonstrations carried out in Calcutta. These riots and demonstrations reflect the other cultural side of India. This is again, historical narrative as a part of the novel. At the close of the novel, Tara is locked in a car across the street near Kettley Continental, thinking whether she would ever get out of Calcutta, and if she did not, whether would ever know that she loved him firstly. The ending is symbolically presented so as to emphasize Tara's mental dilemma. Psychologically, Tara Banerjee is torn between two cultures, namely the one culture of Calcutta, that is homeland, and where she wants to get out of, and the other one is love of David, that is adopted land, Canada. She is caught in this disturbing liminality with interstitial space. She is displaced and remains in the neither of the two cultures and lives in the haunting search for identity. What Bharati Mukherjee tries to give us the image of India on the one hand, image of Canada on the other, and in between these two cultures, the protagonist tries to locate herself, whether she belongs to India or whether she belongs to Canada. So this conflict goes throughout the novel, and the displacement, the haunting of this displacement, even the novel does not disclose that. With these words, I conclude my presentation. Thank you so much. Over to the organizers.
Thank you, brother, sir. Well presented, sir. Well presented. Very good, sir.
Yeah, that was a good presentation. And shall we move on to the next participant now?
Yes, ma'am. We shall move to the next participant.
Yes. Any questions from the audience?
Audience, if you have any doubts to be clarified, you can raise your questions here.
I don't find any questions in the chat box.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
so we'll just proceed, all right? So
Yes, ma'am.
the next participant is Dr. J. Adinarayana, Assistant Professor, School of Law, Christ, deemed to be University, Karnataka.
Yes, madam. Thank you, madam, for giving opportunity. Am I audible, madam?
Yes, sir. Welcome, sir. You may begin your
Can you see
presentation.
PPT, madam?
Yes,
sir.
Yes,
Yeah. Thank you very much for giving opportunity. I don't teach language, but I want to talk about, as a law faculty, I teach law and society. So part of law and society, we have one unit, language and law. So I want to speak about language policy and Constitution of India. 1 second, ma'am. Yeah, all of you know that language is a means of communication. Language can be understood better in terms of its functions and role in society. Yes. So if there is single language, common language, there won't we can promote unity, integrate among people. If there are different languages like in India and other like Russia and other countries, so there will be some differences between individuals as well as among different sections. That's why generally common language is good, but it is impossible to find common language in any country. So language is the most important link between an individual and the society. Yes. So if there is one national language, we can express our own ideas, views, opinions through electronic media, through print media. But since it is not possible to have common language, dominant language, or national language, so since there are different languages, we can exchange ideas, views, and opinions between one individual to another individual among people through national language as well as regional languages. So every country should have a language policy. Here, see there, language policy can either be in written clause in the constitution of a country, or a language of law, or a cabinet document, or administrative regulation. In Indian constitution also, before commencement of Indian Constitution 1950, so in the Constituent Assembly there was a big debate regarding language policy and a declaration of one language as a national language. So the entire Constituent Assembly divided into two groups. So ultimately, they created a schedule under which we can accommodate all regional languages as well as national language. That is Hindi. But in the beginning, they thought that they could declare Hindi as a national language. But since there was no unanimous opinion among Constituent Assembly members, ultimately they declared Hindi as an official language, not as a national language. Because in order to declare one language as a national language, there must be a majority people who can speak that language. But in India, only 30 to 35% speak Hindi. That's why Constituent Assembly did not promote Hindi as a national language. They were declared it only as official language. So what is need of language policy in any country? So here, these are the 5 important points for official use of language in administration and law. So once there is official language, we can express ideas, views between central government, state government, among states and among people also. But since there is no national language, since we have declared Hindi as the official language, so to some extent among north states, they can communicate with each other in the Hindi language. Between north and south, we have to communicate in English, because in Constituent Assembly they prescribed 3 language formula. So Hindi will be official language and the regional language will be there. So English as a link language, as an associate language between regional language and as well as Hindi language. So whenever there is a need for communication between northern states and southern states, so there is English language. So that is first one. Use of language at regional level. So all of you know there are different regional languages at state level in administration as well as in other day-to-day transactions. So that is need of the work, because we cannot ignore the role of regional languages also. The language for wider communication, that is mass media. Yes, at national level, if majority people talk about if a particular language in a proper way, so we can declare it as a one language for communication. But since we have different languages, it is not possible to promote only one language for mass communication. Language for international communication. So all of you know that since we have declared English as a linked language between regional language and national language, so we are taking English language as a international language for international communication. Then use of language at specific domains like education. So education, all of us know that education is a part of concurrent list. Central government can make laws, state government can make laws, but at the end of the day, if there is a clash between central law, state law, So central law will prevail over this over state law. Thus, NEP, National Education Policy 2020, if you take, there is no imposition of language, any particular language or group of people. That's why there is a complete flexibility regarding education. So to some extent, you can promote regional language at the state level, and to some extent, you can promote other languages also apart from mother tongue. Next, all of you know that we have borrowed this national language policy from Soviet Union, but there is criticism regarding borrowing of this language policy from Russia, because in Russia, Russian language was a dominant language and majority people speak that language. But in case of India, only 30 to 40% speak Hindi. That's why we could not declare Hindi as a official national language. That is the only difference. In Russia also there were many languages, and even now there are multiple languages, but majority people speak Russian language. That's why they declared it as a national language. But in case of India, it won't work out, because there are multiple language, there are many regional languages. That's why Hindi can be Hindi can be spoken by majority people, but not like Russia. So only 30 to 40%. That's why instead of national language, we declared it as official language. So according to Gandhi, if you want to declare any one language as a national language, so Gandhi opined based on this criteria. See there, it should be easy to learn for government officials. That is very important, because government officials will play a key role in execution of policies of the central government, state government, and implementation of schemes and programs. So communication very, very important between government officials and common people. So that's why Gandhi said that whatever language you are going to prescribe as a national language, that must be easy to learn for government officials as well as common people also. It should be capable of serving all the domains like religion, politics, etc. Yes. So once you prescribe any one particular language or national language, that must be useful to all people in all areas. Then only we can recognize one language as national language. Next, it should be the majority language. So like I said earlier, Hindi is not majority language in India like in Russia. But in India, only, like I said, 30 to 40% speak Hindi. That's why most of the southern states did not accept Hindi as a national language. So ultimately, they accepted only Hindi as official language. Okay, that's why this is problem. So that's why you could not prescribe Hindi as a national language. Next, it should be easy enough to learn for everyone. Yes. Once you prescribe any particular language as a national language, it must be flexible enough to learn for everyone, to learn that particular language, to share ideas, to express their opinions, and for any other matters. No temporary or passing interest should be considered while choosing this language. Yes, if before declaring any one particular language, there should not be the policymaker should not take into consideration any vested interest of particular section in the society, whether it is northern states or southern states or any particular section in the society. So they must keep in mind the national interest, especially to promote unity, integrity among group of people. But this is criteria mentioned by Gandhi in the Constituent Assembly, even though he was not member of Gandhi, Constituent Assembly, but he has given suggestion to members of the Constituent Assembly. But lack of, like I said, lack of consensus among members of the Constituent Assembly who could not prescribe Hindi as a national language, we have converted it to as an official language. So, like I said earlier, in the Constituent Assembly, since there was no unanimous opinion, entire Constituent Assembly divided into two groups. Ultimately, these two groups, one group supporting Hindi as a national language, and the other group supporting Hindustani as a national language. Or the third group, again, there is supporting regional language, importance of regional language also. Thus, ultimately, they appointed Iyengar committee. That committee brought out three language formula. Even now, we are following three language formula. But until 1965, first official language committee was there. So based on condition, one condition that the official language commission was appointed by central government, that is unless southern states accept Hindi as a official language for a communication between central government and state government, we will continue with three language formula. So based on that condition, we have created that official language commission. Even after 1965, we have been continuing with the three language formula. So, like I said earlier, after end of this 1965, majority members at central level, state level declared English as a link language between national language as well as official language. So, after 1965-67 also, we have been continuing with the three language formula, like I said earlier. So, like I said in the beginning slide, so there is in order to talk about language policy, there is 8th schedule. Actually, in the beginning there was no 8th schedule. it was part of 7th A schedule, but later on it was converted into 8th schedule. So all of us have idea about importance of and the significance of 8th schedule. So in the beginning, 8th schedule recognized only 14 languages, but later on, based on based on demand from the different sections of the people, we have recognized so far 22 languages as scheduled languages, even though 38 other languages are in the waiting list. But unfortunately, there is no proper criteria to include or not to include one particular language in the 8th schedule. Okay, and Supreme Court also in one case held that that is Kanyakumari versus Union of India in 1997. In that case, Supreme Court also held that no section can demand to include particular language in the 8th schedule as a matter of right. Supreme Court held that including one particular language in the 8th schedule, not including particular language in the 8th schedule, is matter of policy of the government of India. So no section can demand. So in that case, Supreme Court also remained as a neutral since it is policy matter. So Article 344 Clause 1. These two clauses talk about.
Sir,
yeah.
Beg your pardon, sir. It's time, sir. Can you please conclude?
Yeah. So these are different articles which talk about language province in the Constitution. I don't want to go in detail due to past of time. Now, language policy, this is 2020. All of us, just now I explained about this language policy. There is no imposition of particular language. Even this policy support the 3 language formula. So in conclusion, this Constitution has given flexibility to all languages to accommodate, but at the same time, the government also must prescribe particular formula to create to include particular language in the 8th schedule. Then only we can promote unity, integrity among people, so that this federal democracy can be successful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for analyzing language from different perspective with law, associating language with law. Thank you, sir. Audience, any questions from audience?
Yes, ma'am. I will ask a question, ma'am.
Sure, ma'am. Please proceed.
I am Savita from BIC20 College, Virudhunagar, ma'am. I am a research scholar. Now, the NEP, well, he is talking about a 2020 NEP. I want to raise a question. Now, it is an important talk about the language policy in India. So now I am asking, some languages are insulted by the dominating language people. How do you feel about this, sir?
Yes,
is there any solution in this policy?
Yes, madam. Actually, that's what I said. That this is need of the word to prescribe particular criteria to include or not include particular language in the 8th schedule. Like you said, this is only political in nature. Suppose if there is demand, if there is demand from particular section, if there is if ruling party of the day is having some political interest, they can support that language to include in 8th schedule. So that's what happening. That's why they at least after 73 years of independence, there should be proper criteria, scientific criteria to include not include particular language, because even though there are many languages who could not include all these languages 8th schedule, only 22 languages. So even 38 languages spoken by majority people in different states not included in the 8th schedule. That is major controversy. That's why at least now we need to prescribe particular criteria instead of looking at political leaders and political interests. So like I said, there should be proper criteria to include not include particular language.
Sir, my question is there any suggestions to solve these problems in policy? Because for example, I am from Tamil Nadu. Yes, world is accepting that Tamil is the oldest language, but in our country it is not considered. Even now that Tamil people are insulted by the North Indians. This kind of thing we can come to know through the news, and many medias also showing this. So that I am asking this question.
Yes,
is there any solution in the policy?
Yes, madam. You are talking about national education policy, madam?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's central government also highlighted saying that there is no imposition of any particular language. So they have given some flexibility to all states to promote their regional language up to I think up to 10th class. So as a instruction language, but there's no clarity about that. That's why there is a controversy. Like you ask now, that is a responsibility of the central government to clarify about this national education policy and not imposition of any particular language on group of people. Otherwise, all southern states will not accept whatever formula prescribed by central government. Okay, because central government, whether it may be Congress or BJP, they should not keep in mind political interest. So by keeping away the political interest, they must keep in mind next generation, future. So by keeping in mind that future, they must give proper clarification about this national education policy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sabita ma'am. Solution is on the way. We'll get the solution very soon. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Next, let me call upon Dr. R. Visalakshi, former guest lecturer, Pondicherry University, Pondicherry. Visalakshi ma'am, the stage is yours, please.
Hello, ma'am. Thank you. So, a very good evening to one and all present over there. I thank wholeheartedly the organizers for giving me this great opportunity, and I also thank the audience for being online. So let me start my paper. I would like to share my screen. Okay. Can I share my screen?
Yes, ma'am, you can.
But it's not coming. Yesterday I tried and it was working.
Ma'am, you'll have a button over the share screen.
Yes.
That bottom.
Towards the bottom, next to share.
Stop video. Share is there. Document is coming.
Okay. Next to the chat icon, you have a share screen, ma'am.
Ma'am, you have to keep your presentation open for that to be selected, ma'am.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Please don't minimize it. Keep it open and then.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, now I have to go back to the Zoom and. Okay, share. Oh my God. Okay, let me start with my presentation.
Yes.
I have a whole paper, but I'll just read out the gist of my paper.
Okay.
So my topic is Women and Patriarchy in Burdensome Days by Ambai. This article shows how women handle patriarchy and its oppression. Dr. C.S. Lakshmi, known as Ambai, is a famous contemporary Tamil women writer with numerous awards for her literary works. Many of her works have been already translated into English and French. So she is an independent researcher in women's studies for more than the past 37 years. Burdensome Days is a story written by Ambai in Tamil and translated into English by Aniruddhan Vasudevan and published in the book A Night with a Black Spider. Analysis: Burdensome Days presents the life of two best friends, Brahmara and Mithila, and how they deal with patriarchy. Marriage becomes the arc of separation between the two friends. Marriage is a form of compulsory heterosexuality and the means by which the oppression of women is perpetuated sexually, economically, and socially. This is taken from the Routledge Companion to Feminism and Post-Feminism. The author presents patriarchy as a burden in the form of culture, politics, wealth, and baby, and how these four notions channelize the life of woman, Brahmara, by slowly uprooting the woman from her own self-nature. Patriarchy is a system ruled over by men whose authority is enforced through social, political, economic, and religious institutions. Shulamit Firestone sees women's construction as a subordinate class arising from reproductive functions, identifying the biological family structure as the primary site of women's oppression under patriarchy. Postmodern feminist theories draw on psychoanalysis, deconstructivist, and post-structuralist concepts in order to reveal patriarchy as an ideology that permeates every area of culture. And this is taken again from Routledge Companion to Feminism and Post-Feminism. At last, Brahmara comes out of all imposed ideologies and lives her own ideology at peace. This helps the story to be analyzed from a gynocritic point of view. Ellen Showalter coined the term gynocriticism in her essay Feminist Criticism in the Wilderness. Gynocriticism aims at theorizing the female literary activity. Its subjects are the history, style, themes, genre, and structures of writing by women. the psychodynamics of female creativity, the trajectory of the individual or collective female career, and the evolution and laws of a female literary tradition. In this way, argues Showalter, feminist literary criticism will emerge as a specialized critical discourse capable of challenging the male dominion of the field of literary theory. Patriarchy is omnipresent in the society. Brahmara, after marriage, undergoes the patriarchal oppression in the name of culture, politics, money, and baby. Whereas Nitila, her friend, unmarried, lives peacefully in her own nature without any external influence in the same patriarchal society. Ambai presents a woman character, Brahmara, dealing with patriarchy with all sorts of burdens as follows. Burden number 1, culture. Culture is strongly represented to language, thereby language becomes a strong divider among various cultures. Brahmara had a liberal life at her parents' house. She was given absolute freedom to express her feelings and she didn't have any distinction towards people in the name of culture. On the contrary, her in-laws' house curtailed her moves in the name of culture. Dress code was imposed upon her in the name of culture, especially even after marriage. Brahmara wanted to be in the topmost story of the Eiffel Tower, looking down at a Paris bathed in light at night. She wanted to kiss the man she loved. She had many more dreams to be realized in her honeymoon, but Devanathan told her that it was against Tamil culture to kiss on the top of the Eiffel Tower. She quenched her thirst for art and wine during her later trips to Paris for concerts, but all her other yearnings, desires, and needs lay buried deep. Burden number 2, politics. Politics is directly linked to culture. They are like a jar and its lid. Brahmara was assigned the cultural responsibilities in her in-laws' political party named Save Humanity. This idea was a patriarchal weapon used to distance Brahmara from her intellectual circles, her friends, and her own family. Brahmara's mother-in-law avoided Ranganathan's invitation, a friend of Brahmara, invitation as he came empty-handed. The friend comes home to invite her for the ceremony of a music kacheri, but then the mother-in-law avoids him, stating that he is not of their status and he came empty-handed. And on the day of Ranga's function, Brahmara was asked to play the veena for the chief minister, and it was planned that he would confer on her the title Queen of Music. Hence, she couldn't attend Ranga's function. Thereby, Brahmara was made to be away from a circle of like-minded people in order to fill her mind just with the ideologies of her in-laws' family. This political game extended to the level of separating her from her own parents. A quote, "Appa, you don't seem to want to come here." Well, the thing is, you're just looking for excuses. It was not that he did not visit his daughter. He and Kanagavali had made several visits, but they could not move past the main gate. Amazed at the pomp and self-importance of this family, the mother-in-law used to say that we are the kind of people who don't go and eat out at our daughter's place. Since all of this had happened in a quiet and undemonstrative, implicit manner, Brahmara did not know any of this. Brahmara's in-laws family uses politics to create politics within relationships. Women are made vulnerable to the family politics. Brahmara becomes a victim within no time. Burden number 3, wealth. Brahmara does not know the sources of the family income. She was also a partner in the film company. She just signed wherever she was asked to sign. Once a famous film director asked Brahmara to sing for his film, but she then refused. Brahmara had to face income tax raids, inquiries for the tax frauds executed by the family. She assigned in all the documents without proper knowledge about the engagements. Thereby, she became a victim for their illegal activities. Finally, Devanathan, the husband of Brahmara, hired famous lawyers to resolve the case. Brahmara was shut inside the house. She's criticized for her songs. They compel her to follow their choices. The woman's right of thought is questioned here by her father-in-law. Secondly, they use her just as a security locker to escape from all their illegal accumulations of wealth. Due to her righteous nature, her in-laws' family maintained to keep her unaware of the sources of their income. Finally, she faces the trouble and somehow wealth is used to save her. At times, wealth also deprives a woman from her own liberty. Burden number 4, children. Ambai presents so candidly the truth of childbearing and child rearing in the story. Children, a quote, "Children, they hadn't weighed heavy in her womb, but when she tried to carry them in her heart, they pressed down on her like huge rocks." In the second year of marriage, Brahmara gave birth to twins, but finally, Sivagami feels that corruption is a Very common thing in society, and her mother is terrified about this notion. Her father-in-law also nodded to his grandson's point of view, adding that Brahmara's personality is because of her righteous father. Brahmara's children accused her for her honest nature. Her parents-in-law are implicitly encouraging the grandchildren to develop a low esteem about their mother. Brahmara is in a very pathetic situation. Her own children doesn't understand her righteous nature. The kids express their wish to join the film company and take up responsibility. They express that they will handle the business more efficiently than their mother. Amritavali adds a comment that Brahmara does not know how to behave according to their family culture. All the members of the family are against Brahmara's notions about culture, music, and business. On seeing the true face of her children, husband, and parents-in-law, and all the pain she had undergone all through the past 25 years, she decides to leave the home. Finally, Brahmara transcends the patriarchal prison and goes back to her parents' house. I quote, Brahmara felt agitated. She quietly opened the back door, walked past the garden, and stepped out on the street through the narrow gate. She shivered in the cold breeze that was blowing. She didn't know what she should do. She called Nitila, her childhood friend, on her cell phone. Brahmara called Nitila to pick her up at 2 a.m. Nitila came with Violin Gopu to pick her in a car. She dropped Brahmara at her parents' house. Again, who is this? Brahmara, what happened? It is 2 o'clock at night. Nitila, I'm standing in the street behind the house. Can you come and pick me up? I'll be there, Nitila said immediately. In a little while, she arrived in a car with Violin Gopu. She embraced Brahmara. A cuckoo cooed somewhere, woken up from its sleep. Brahmara placed her head on Nitila's shoulder. Ambai presents here a cuckoo woken up from sleep, which symbolizes Brahmara who wakes up from her oppressive state. The beginning of the story presents a close relationship between Nitila and Brahmara. After a long gap of 25 years, their friendship grew thicker again. In the meantime, Nitila was by herself. Her parents too passed away. People said she was in a relationship with Violin Gopu. She neither refused it nor reacted to it. Finally, Nitila had a peaceful life. Brahmara's parents accepted her arrival without any question. This denotes the level of respect, belief they have upon their daughter. Brahmara's parents were nearing 80 years. Kanyakumari was 78 years old. Even at this old age, they accept the return of Brahmara without any hesitation and total affection. They help her continue her music profession. With time, her living becomes light. The song which Brahmara sang represented her state of mind. She sang, I quote, days of forgetfulness, days of losing awareness, days without life, being laid on the high years, days of burden, these. After she sang the words, days of burden, these, she played on the veena, tugging and pulling at the strings, stressing that part of the song. Slowly, very slowly, living became light. Conclusion. Burdensome Days presents the life of Brahmara and Nitila and how they handle their life in the patriarchal society. As this story is focused on the life experiences of two women, it is valid to be analyzed from a gynocritic point of view. Showalter defines gynocriticism as the study of writing by women. At the end of the story, Brahmara realizes that she no more belongs to her in-laws' family and she goes back to her parents' house in search of her own identity. This implies her self-discovery.
I beg your pardon, ma'am. Excuse me.
Yeah, I'm going to finish. Last two lines.
Yes.
Thus, Brahmara represents the female face described by Ellen Showalter. Nitila represents a female face. When Brahmara is suffocated with patriarchy, she steps out of her house and calls Nitila. This implies that women cannot be suppressed forever, and once they become conscious of their status, they will free themselves from a life of oppression and they'll move towards a life of freedom and originality. Thus, Brahmara breaks patriarchy and goes back to the female face. Burdensome Days implicitly denotes patriarchy to be the burden, and self-discovery is the solution for women to be relieved from this burden. Thank you. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Dr. Visalakshi.
Yes, ma'am.
SIVA PRIYA, ma'am?
Ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Shall we move to the next candidate?
Yes, ma'am. Of course, we shall move to the next participant.
Yes. Dr. P. Kuralmuriyai, Professor and Head, AMET Deep to the University, Chennai, Tamil Nadu. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Just give me 1 minute to share my screen.
Yes,
yeah, ma'am.
I hope all of you are able to see my slide.
Yes, ma'am. It's
Yes,
visible, ma'am.
yes, thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. I thank the organizer for giving me an opportunity to present my paper. The title of my paper is Sorrow as a Victim of Indian Patriarchal Culture of Preference for Sons in Shashi Deshpande's The Dark Holds No Terrors. Indian culture rewards the birth of a son. Indian parents expect sons. They prefer a son to be their first child. The birth of a baby boy is welcomed by parents and grandparents. A male child is welcomed to this world with pomp and grandeur, whereas the birth of a girl child is received with disappointment and dismay. A girl child is considered a burden. This attitude is existing for centuries together among the Indian parents, that is, in the Indian patriarchal culture. The fondness for sons remains very strong among the Indian parents. They look upon boys as investment, asset, breadwinner, caregiver, whereas girls as liability, as they have to append a lot of money when their daughters get married. The Indian culture rewards the birth of a son and penalizes the birth of a daughter because in its perception, son is a boon and daughter is a bane. And this is about Shashi Deshpande's The Dark Holds No Terrors. I hope as students of literature and faculty of English literature, all of us know something about Shashi Deshpande. Shashi Deshpande's The Dark Holds No Terrors. Shashi Deshpande is one of the famous Indian women novelists who deals with society in its rich and varied customs and views the predicament of women in different dimensions. The Dark Holds No Terrors is a masterpiece by Shashi Deshpande. Saru, the central character of the story, wants to come out of the patriarchal society. Therefore, the darkness or the nothingness or the blackness is no more a terror to her as she tries desperately to find herself. Saru has been neglected by her mother because of the death of her son Dhruva and the survival of her daughter. To the mother, Saru is not existing at all. She never cared for Saru's feelings. Even though Saru is a doctor by profession, she is a female and she becomes a victim to the patriarchal culture which prefers sons. And in this novel, the mother very often tells her daughter that she should have died instead of Dhruva. The social setup in India is such that it is filled with absurdities and contradictions. A female is more an auxiliary member than a main member, both in her parents' house as well as in her husband's house. The novel, The Dark Holds No Terrors, is, I quote, a tremendously powerful portrayal of one woman's fight to survive in a world that offers no easy outs. As she struggles with her emotions and anxieties, Sarita gradually realizes that there is more to life than dependency on marriage, parents, and other such institutions. And she resolves to use her newfound truths to make a better life for herself. Sarita, who is referred to as Saru in the whole novel, is deprived of parental care and affection. When Saru was 8 years old, her brother Dhruva drowned and died. Saru's mother was very much upset at the death of her son and the survival of her daughter and said, I quote, "Why didn't you die? Why are you alive and he dead?" I unquote. Even though Saru was not responsible for the death of her brother, her mother neglected Saru after Dhruva's death. To her mother, Saru didn't exist at all. Her father did not take care of Saru. About her parents, Saru said, I quote, "He never took any interest in my school or college. He left it all to her. And she never really cared, not after Dhruva's death. I just didn't exist for her. I died long before I left home," unquote. Saru's mother had promised her a Chanderi sari when Dhruva would have his thread ceremony. Thread ceremony is that Punul ceremony. This had never happened, and as Saru said, I quote, "It had never happened, neither the thread ceremony nor her Chanderi sari. With Dhruva's death, it had all come to an end. There had been no more pujas, no more going for or holding haldi, kumkums, attending weddings or thread ceremonies. Saru is a victim. Saru grew up as a victim of her mother's sexist and gender-based bias, which further reduces her later life to a desperate struggle. Saru's mother always kept two different measuring yards, one for the son and the other for the daughter. Saru's mother is a traditional woman who thinks that it is the duty of a mother to remind her daughter that she is a girl and she should behave accordingly. Right from the beginning, Saru was made to understand that she is a girl and she is inferior to her brother in every way. Saru grew up from being a skinny girl to a girl with a softness here, a tenderness there, a strangeness all over. Saru's mother made her feel this growing up as something shameful so that she had to be ashamed of herself. Saru recollected her mother's words. I quote, "You are growing up," she would say, and there was something unpleasant in the way she looked at me, so that I longed to run away, to hide whatever part of me she was staring at. You should be careful now about how you behave. Don't come out in your petticoat like that, not even when it is only your father who is around. Saru was always made to feel ugly, unwanted, and undesirable. Saru's mother was cruel and hostile towards her daughter and treated her with a sense of rivalry. The do's and don'ts prescribed by the domineering mother made Saru hate her body and all bodily functions. When she attained puberty, she was told, I quote, "You are a woman now," unquote. For Saru, it was a torture. And Saru quotes the words, just the feeling of being a pariah with my special cup and plate by my side, in which I was served from a distance, for my touch was, it seemed, pollution. A kind of shame that engulfed me, making me want to rage, to scream. So even the ritual of attaining puberty is considered as shameful. She was made to feel like that by her mother. It was only when she became a medical student that she came to know that growing up is not something to be ashamed of. I quote, "It was only when I began to study anatomy and physiology in my first year of medicine that I was suddenly released from a prison of fears and shames. Things fell with a miraculous exactness into place. I was a female. I was born that way. That was the way my body was to be. Those were the things that had to happen to me. And that was that." I unquote. Saru's mother did not want her to study medicine. She was not ready to make her husband spend for Saru's study as well as for her marriage. Saru chose to study medicine and joined a medical college at Bombay and stayed in the hostel. She defied her parents and family and resolved to get married. After her last confrontation with her parents, she had detached herself completely from them. To her, they were past and meant nothing. Saru disliked the role of a daughter and looked forward to the role of a wife with the hope that her new life would help her in winning freedom. She considered marriage as, I quote, "the open sesame of all enjoyment," I unquote. Even though the girls leave their parents and get married and consider their marriage as victory and as an escape from the bondage, they very soon realize that their victory is nothing. When they become pregnant, they feel nostalgic to be with their mother, to eat the delicacies prepared by their mother. They feel sorry for whatever they missed during this period. This sorrow would never be removed and replaced by anything in this world. Saru felt sad that her mother did not do any such ritual for her when she was pregnant. Let me conclude. Saru's mother never cared for her daughter's feelings. Even on the deathbed, Saru's mother was not ready to be compromised with her daughter. Even at the moment of death, she said the same thing. "What daughter? I have no daughter." When Saru heard this through Maikaki, she was filled with anger. Not only Saru's mother had hated her, Saru too had hated her mother. Saru expressed her hatred for her mother as, I quote, I hate her, sapping me of happiness, of everything. She has always done it to me, taken happiness away from me. She does it even now when she is dead. Unquote. Neither Saru's mother nor Saru was willing to be compromised with each other. Saru was never ready to forgive her mother for ignoring her. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was a quite interesting presentation. So the next participant is any queries? Audience, any queries from your side? Or any clarifications from your side?
Participants, any clarifications? No. Okay, ma'am. We shall move the next participant then.
Yes, the next participant is Dr. S. Shobana, Assistant Professor. Yes, the SFR College for Women, Sivakasi, Tamil Nadu. Yes, Dr. Shobana, you may present now.
Yeah, ma'am. I'm just take a second of time to present.
Yeah.
Ma'am, to stop the presentation because I'm unable to do my slide share here. Because it is still sharing the presentation.
Yeah, unless the other one stops, you will be unable to do that.
Yeah,
I have stopped the presentation.
Yeah. Now I got it. Yeah, a very warm greeting and good evening to everyone. It was a great opportunity being a part of this international conference. I would like to express my gratitude to the presence of all the dedicated speakers and the participants in the conference. Now let me start my presentation. My title of my presentation is Gauri Deshpande Discloses the Feminine Sensibility in Her Poetic World. So as we all know, a poem is a complex art, symbol, and is a signature of aesthetic competence. Poetry is a channel through which true identity and spirit of a soul can be released. Poetry is all about encapsulating new emotions into words in such a way that it is released and felt with the soul every time it's read. In the same way, Gauri Deshpande excels in her poetic creativity, and the fabric of sensibility that she articulates is not only significant but is also innovative. Gauri Deshpande is a name that the critic and the reader of Indian poetry cannot bypass without a prominent lacuna in her category. As for her post of prestige in the tradition of the genre, she is no doubt with Torudat, Sarojini Naidu, and Kamala Das, comfortably boosted up by the merits and the body of that she has to her name. The structural magnification of a poem is equally and interestingly, and the canon of her English poetry included three collections of poems, namely Between Birth, Lost Love, Beyond the Slaughterhouse, with a total of 80 poems so far, where she depicted the female psyche as well as the imagery which her primary concerns are underlined. And in the next slide here, I had showed that the depiction of women, particularly in the poetries of Gauri Deshpande. So this paper is an analysis of the poetry of Gauri Deshpande, which experiments with the image of Indian, particularly Indian women soon after the British period. Those several works of her poetry in which she had questions hypocritically societal mores, much to the embarrassments of the male establishment of that time. Image of woman represent is a hostelic image of all women in India, irrespectively of caste, creed, or religion in the post-colonial period. Gauri Deshpande's whole work include particularly the poetries, essays, and the short story in Marathi and English, as well as published in many other languages also. In all other poems, she constantly makes an attempt to redefine social ethics and voices the need for emancipation for women from gender inequalities prevailing both in domestic as well as social life. The poetess moves towards the distinctive search for an authentic self-identity of Indian woman who is liberated and respected both as human being and male counterpart as reflected in her poetry. Like all other new women, Deshpande has emerged with her own desires, ambitions, and quest to break away age-old customs and beliefs. Her poems not only give voices to her emotions and experience, but also births to dilemma and conflict. So to mark out the singular future of each collection of poems, separate slots have to be assigned each. But for this presentation, I had choose only one of her famous notable poem, that is The Female of the Species, where she depicted the portrayal of woman portrayal throughout this poem. Deshpande is at her best really in short poems, always in the short poems. So this poem, The Female of the Species, while does not illustrate any ability to evoke a world of colors and sound or to project more thoughtful and provocative ideas, this poem, which arises from the need, felt deeply by the poet and communicate very well with the world as a woman. This poem is a simple poem and a special poem about the female world, conveying feminine feelings. This is the poem she simply communicates with the world as a woman. So let me read out few lines from this poem. Um, Sometimes you want to talk and love and desire and the ungratefulness of children and speak of the rate of rice and the price of tea and the scarcity of cheese. You know both that you have spoken of love and desire and ungrateful children. So these lines are from the above mentioned poems, which was beautifully interpreted by Gauri Deshpande, where she is very peculiar to speak or point out about love, desire, and about children, but she speaks something else which has no link. Women crave for the company of same sex to talk about their emotion feelings. They have a common feminine language to share. Logically, the topic of conversation that we see in these lines are the price of a tea, the scarcity of a cheese, have nothing to do with, but what the speaker desire to communicate of love and desire is particularly to woman. So a woman is able to need to have a heart to heart talk on love, desire, and sadness, all along with the gratefulness of children. She prefers only a woman companion, as talking to men has no value. It is not considering to all the women, but most of the women. They are communicate silently, and this silent communications give them relief and make them happy. She directly says that men can never understand a woman's feeling. It is Gauri Deshpande's feeling. So this poem is one in which she conveys a kind of feminine feeling. So like this, in all her other poems also, she had showcases the modern women also. So here, from signaling to the beginning of the modernism, that showcases the characteristic of the modern woman rights by portraying an independent and gifted female protagonist, professional and personal, coming of age. We can observe that her poetry at its best involve a passionate involvement with the existential against of the modern woman, confronted with her inability to find meaningful relationship in society. She belongs to the group of conventional poets. Her poetry is full of sensuality and deals with the rebellion of modern Indian women against male dictatorship. Her works are mainly focused on man-woman relationship, death, sense of alienation, frustration, identity crisis, recognition, and urge for feminine sensibility. She emphasizes individual identity and freedom. That's why Gauri Deshpande is considered as a trend breaker in Indian English poetry. Yes, the main reason for her writing poetry is to release the tension which build up in her, does not find any other outlook, and her poems freely express her thoughts, idea, and feelings. She is regarded as a trend breaker by breaking conventional attitudes. Deshpande expressed a woman's psychology in her poems, no matter who or where the audience is. She is born to challenge their assumptions, producing both discomfortable as well as delight. That's why she became the torch bearer of Indian poetry on women issues. Deshpande has a highly feminist voice. She had once said, I just quote it, it is a very famous line from Gauri Deshpande's personal view. I quote, I could still churn out Indian English poems by the bushel, but I began to see, thanks to Nizamikil, that what I have is a knack, a talent, not a calling. My calling is narrative fiction, mostly in Marathi, and thanks to Nissim Nikhil, I discovered. I unquote. That's why I want to close my I want to close with a few personal things of Gauri Deshpande's that might shed some light on how her mind works. With regard to the title of my paper, my research, which proceed from my awareness of giving a feminist reading of Gauri Deshpande's poetry, which is not only filled with the elite and eloquent, but also the ordinary masses. So it is hoped that in a small way, at least this study will establish the relevance of feminine faces in Gauri Deshpande's poems to the contemporary women's society. The uses of feminist images in Deshpande's poetry are powerful, focusing on marriage, particularly on marriage, motherhood, women relationship with their bodies, power over their sexualities, and the role women are often in traditional and modern Indian society. Gauri Deshpande's feminism has matured over the years into an externalist view of things. One can notice certain ambivalence in her feminism. Therefore, in a broad way, I can say that Gauri Deshpande has written poems of reflection of life and death, relationship between man and nature, love, and that man and woman are subject to, and all the feminine world, inner quest or self-search. The list will goes on and on. And we can clearly see that these silent sufferings as well as the desires experienced by the women folk is well reflected in the works of Gauri Deshpande. That's why Gauri Deshpande's poetry strike the readers as a reading of their highest thought and appears almost a remembrance always. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. So I would like to say to everyone, so whenever you feel a little bored or reaction, sit back and relax yourself with a poem of any writers, and you can become a writer. Thank you. And over to the chairman.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shobana. It was, very well explained. It is so clear, and the way the way you presented was also quite very expressive. Thank you so much. Right? Thank you so much. Right. Shall we move to the next participant? Any queries from the audience side? Yeah.
Shobana, well presented. Shobana, very good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So the next participant is Mrs. M. Kanyakumari, Assistant Professor, Sarada Gandhigram College, Pondicherry. Gangadharan College, Pondicherry. Dr. Shobana, I think you should stop sharing your screen.
Stop sharing. I have stopped.
Ms. Kanyakumari, are you there?
Ma'am, I don't think so. She's there, ma'am.
Okay, we'll move on to the next candidate then. Ms. Sabita, yes, Sabita Shanmukapriya. Sabita Shanmukapriya.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm here, ma'am.
Okay. Then now you may present. It's your time now.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sharing my slide, ma'am. Ma'am, is it can you view my slide, ma'am?
Yes, it's visible. You may proceed.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Now my topic is today's teacher's perspective in integrated and blended teaching. I am a Sabita Shanmukapriya, a full-time research scholar in Research Center of English, BIC20 College, Virudhunagar, Tamil Nadu. In this paper, I wish to say about the web tools, how we are using web tools for the integrated teaching and blended teaching. How the teachers are accepting this in this COVID period. We are having a lot of issues on handling online classes. So I wish to make a study on the teachers' perspective, how they are liking this kind of classes. For this, first of all, I am explaining what is the need for Web 2.0 technologies in education. That in today's world, that the students are considered as digital natives. So from the birth onwards, the learners, that is children, are very familiar with the digital tools. So they are called as digital natives. So while handling this kind of children, we have to concentrate on many things about that gadgets, how to handle the gadgets. We first of all, we might know that we are called as the today's teachers are called as digital immigrants, because now only we are learning the technical tools to handle this kind of students. Then the next one is in today's world there is a type of approach, it is called computer assisted language learning, and another one is ICT, information and communication technology. These two approaches are introduced by our educational policy also for the for the education from the beginning to higher education. The computer assessed language learning talks about how we can assess that computer for the teaching purpose, especially for the language teaching purpose. In advance, that information and communication technology is used. In ICT, in using that ICT, government says it divides this into 3 types, that they are communicate such as videos, audios, and computer to broaden the horizon. So it gives opportunity to the teaching aids also in the base of audios, animations, graphs, and sounds. While using these kind of technologies, government suggests a hybrid course to combine online classes and telecourses and face-to-face classes also. Already it is in practice. Already government had introduced this. On this base only we are having smart classrooms in our schools and colleges, and language labs also. Then the next one is, for my review of literature, I had taken 3 research articles. First one is from Belgrade University, and it is based on this research article is an experimental study. It is based on blended teaching and integrated teaching, how they are using in their classrooms, that kind of research article. Then the next research article is from Cyprus. It is also on integrated language teaching, how the language skills are integrated with the literature, and how it is taken to the classroom. That is the research article. The third one is based on ICT tools. It is an article from Turkish. Then my blended teaching. First of all, I want to say some few words about blended teaching. Blended teaching is how we can blend technical tools as well as normal traditional class in a classroom. It is possible to take both in a class, in a single class. Like that, for example, projectors are smart. Best example is smart classroom. We can teacher is handling the smart class slides and PPTs or so on. At the meantime, he or she will explain about that, and he or she will get the feedback. She can create an interaction between the students and her. This is a face-to-face class. It is a traditional method, as well as she is using that boards also, projector also. So it is a blended teaching. And integrated teaching is how the skills, there are a lot of skills, while we can take it as a Bloom's according to the Bloom's taxonomy, or otherwise we can take that 4 language skills, how these language skills can be integrated in any kind of classroom, not only in a literature classroom. It can be, the skills can be integrated in all the other subject classrooms also. And that another thing I have to say is STEAM. STEAM is, yes, it stands for science, T stands for technology, E stands for engineering, and M stands for mathematics. So in these kind of classes also, we can teach language skills, that is LSRW, so that it will be very easy for the students to develop their skill along with their own studying subjects. So now, how the teachers are feeling. while taking this kind of classes, how whether they are having ideas and opinions about these kind of approaches, because blended approach and integrated approach are both technical approaches. How the teachers are feeling, whether they are ready to take it, use it in their classrooms, because now it is because of COVID-19, all the classes, we are having all the classes in online. So I made a study on that. I made a survey on that, so that I created 6 questions based on this. It is a descriptive, I expect that a descriptive answer from the staff teachers. And in the beginning, to know about the applicants, participants, I just asked about their years of experience, their years of experience in teaching and their qualification and all. From that, I came to know that some professors are having more than 30 years experience. And it is a very interesting, glad news to say that even though they are having 30 years experience, they are having 30 years experience, as well as they are having well knowledge in technical tools also. They are well versed in handling ICT tools also. At the meantime, there are some professors, some teachers are having less experience of 5 months, 6 months, but they are not having that much knowledge on technology also. Even though we are saying that this period is well versed for the people, the children are well versed in technology, the new coming professors and teachers are not, some of the teachers are not having that much of efficiency in handling this kind of classes. So for that, I asked 6 questions. My tool is that 6 question: how much are you interested in attending webinars? Because in the beginning of this COVID period, just when we are recalling our memory, we can come to know that at first we attended a lot of webinars. After that only, through that only, we came to know about many apps and technologies, how to handle the students and all. After that only, now we are conducting classes, online classes. So the first question is based on that: how much are you interested in attending webinars? For that, for this research, I gave 1 day only. That questionnaire was open for one day. 25 members answered, and among the 25 members, more than 20 members are very much interested in attending webinars. And I want to say that this kind the next question is, what is your opinion on using apps in language classroom? Most of the members answered that it is very interesting, and they are, even though they are not having that much practice in using apps for the language classroom. Now they are learning. Now they are attending many workshops and seminars to know about the apps, mobile apps also, mobile apps also. So through that, they are making themselves update in apps, handling classes in through apps. And now like that, they are also willing, after the COVID period also, they are also willing to use these kind of apps in the for the language classroom. The next question is, do you feel that internet can support your teaching? How much? For this also, many teachers are saying that more than 20 people are saying that it is very useful and internet is supporting the teaching. But the 5 members are having different opinion. They are saying that 70 or 50% only the internet can support the teaching. Otherwise, it is not an interesting one to handling classes through the internet. And some people say that it will reduce the time and distance, so we can take the classes.
I beg your pardon, ma'am. I'm sorry. Time's up, ma'am. Can you please conclude?
Yes, ma'am, just a minute. And the fourth question is, what is your opinion on blended teaching? For this also, many people are, all the professors are willing to take handling classes in blended teaching, but some of them are not, 3 members are not interested in blended teaching because they are very interested to take classes in face-to-face classes, classes and other approaches. And the next question is, what is the opinion in integrated teaching? For this question, all the professors are answered in a positive manner because all the people, all the professors knew about the integrated teaching, and they are willing to, even though they are not having practice in the integrated teaching, they are willing to take class through this approach. And the last question is, what is your idea in using technology, apps, internet in future classroom? For this also, 20 members answered that they are very interested in using this kind of technological tools in future classrooms, but 5 members are not willing because they are saying it is not, it won't support in a positive manner, because the learners may misuse that using these online classes. And but at the same time, they are willing to know about, all the 25 members are willing to know about technology, apps and internet also. Then my finding is, internet supports education. So we must agree that the next one is, all the Indian teachers and professors do not have the idea to technical tool or internet tools in their teaching. So ideas are differing according to their situation. Teachers are having an idea of integrated teaching, but whether they are using it in a meaningful way in the classroom is a doubt. The next one is, blended teaching is also attracted for the teaching purpose, and majority of teachers are having the interest to handle internet tools learning purpose and to material preparation, but not in the classroom. So they are not willing to handle class through this technical tools. All the professors and some teachers are giving an interest in listening to webinars in this quarantine period. So my conclusion is, it is a positive view only. So even though they are not having interest, they are having they are willing to know about technology, and they are willing to use technology for their teaching purpose, whether it is in direct or indirect. Whether it is direct or indirect, they are willing to use internet sources, and so that in future it will be developed, and all the professors will be well versed in handling online classes and using apps also. So directly this blended teaching and integrated teaching approach will reach the professors to handle their regular classes. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Sarita.
Yes.
That was a good presentation. Any questions from the audience side? Any queries? Okay, ma'am, shall we pass on to the next participant?
Yes, please. Yes, yes.
Okay, ma'am.
I think she's the last participant, I believe.
Ma'am, Mr. P. Venkatesha, he is also here, ma'am. He has joined late. After Rakiba, Mr. P. Venkatesha, 6th participant in our list, will continue.
Okay, fine.
Okay, ma'am. Next, may I call upon Miss Haj Rahiba, Assistant Professor, Haji Karunda Rautar Howdia College, Uttamapalayam, Tamil Nadu, to carry on the presentation.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here, ma'am. Shall I start sharing my screen, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, of course, of course.
Yes, ma'am. A minute, please. I hope my screen is visible. Excuse me.
No, ma'am.
It's not visible, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. I'm Mrs. Rahiba, Assistant Professor of English, Haji Kartarautar Haudia College, Thumapalayam, Theni District, and I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity for presenting my paper in this platform. Thank you so much, everyone. Let me start my presentation. See, my presentation is on George Riger's The Ecstasy of Rita Joe, an ethno-feministic perspective. I have made an attempt actually to investigate the well-known play of George Riger, The Ecstasy of Rita Joe, using a new, I shouldn't say a theory, actually it is a movement which has just emerged, an ethno-feministic movement, right? It is. So I've tried to bring out certain parts, certain points using it, right? To begin with, as we know, feminism is a very broad umbrella term, right? We have been very much accustomed to having used it every time, but at present times you have various connotations, right? You have different contexts in which feminism is being used, and besides, you have several subgroupings of feminism also. But every subgrouping of feminism, when we take, we find certain limitations. There have always been, a lot of discussions or controversies, I should say, regarding the various types of subgroupings of feminism available. Even when you take ecofeminism or black feminism, people have so many, I should say, difference of opinion as to it is not applicable to them in every way. So because of such a problem which exists, there has been a new type of feminism which has started emerging, right? And the term is ethnofeminism, and we could find that this ethnofeminism has created activists across the United States. Okay, women of all races, not only a particular black people, women from black race, or it is not, I should say, special to any particular race, because it connects women of all races invariably across the world through the power of feminism. And the purpose of this particular ethnofeminism movement is that it helps women in defining and asserting their ethnic identity and gender identity. See, these two terms, ethnic identity and gender identity, are terms which have now become very, very special, because every person wants to be identified using his ethnic identity as well as his gender identity. And this is why ethnofeminism has started becoming a very strong movement nowadays, right? Let me be a bit fast, because I know I have another participant after me, right? Thank you. So when we take this particular drama of play of George Riger, The Ecstasy of Rita Joe, right? We know this particular drama is a very important drama in modern Canadian drama, right? It is a seminal work of George Riger, which has 2 acts, right? And as far as the protagonist of the play is concerned, she is Rita Joe, and she is a native Canadian Aboriginal woman, right? She comes out of her reservation, you call it an area particularly for that Aboriginal people, and she comes out and has to face, when she comes out in search of her freedom or in search of employment, she has to face so many problems, and she confronts oppression, violence, discrimination due to her gender as well as her ethnicity. This particular aspect of the play, that is which focuses that she faces so many difficulties, or so much of discrimination based on her being a woman as well as being a Aboriginal woman, as well as has made me opt this particular ethno-feminism perspective. Okay, and I've tried to apply it, right? And she is a person who's victimized by the Western patriarchal institutions. What I mean by Western patriarchal institutions here is from the court, okay, the court, the school, as well as what should I say, quote, even the church, it tries to discriminate her. Okay, so that is why I have mentioned she is victimized by Western patriarchal institutions. And not only that, she is suppressed, her voice is suppressed throughout her life. From the beginning, when we read the novel, we find that from the beginning she tries to recollect everything. It is a flashback like technique which the playwright adopts, and through this flashback technique we come to know from the beginning how the natives have been oppressed, and how as a woman she has been undergoing oppression even at the present time of her life, right? And she is a representative of the native and indigenous perspective in a colonized nation. Here in this particular play we find how the colonizers colonized the natives of the place. Okay, so that again she becomes a representative. Being a woman also, she becomes a representative there. Next one, she is accused of charges like prostitution, vagrancy, and shoplifting. And when she is brought to the court for the first time, right? She is not first time, she is brought to the court thrice or so, and every time she is brought, no, she is not given a chance to explain why she had indulged in prostitution, why she had gone for shoplifting, or why she had been wandering around all over the place. So the people actually, I should say, the people who do not allow her to speak, to voice herself, are become the personifications of supremacy. To begin with, the magistrate before whom she is brought, he becomes a personification of supremacy, because every time he tries to accuse her, right, starting from the time when she is brought, he tries to blame her always. He blames the way she dresses, he blames the way she speaks the language, and he tries to blame the way, because he even tries to blame the culture from which she comes out. Okay, and from the magistrate's words, many a times we can find how he personifies the patriarchal society, because at one instance in the play he tries to say how he would have behaved in case if he had a daughter in that case, right? So from the magistrate's point of view also we can find how the English people had considered themselves very superior. And the next personification is, you can take the policemen of the play also. Say policemen are supposed to safeguard the public, but as far as the policemen depicted in this particular play are concerned, they try to give her $5, and as soon as she accepts those $5, when she asks why she is given those $5, by the time all this communication is over, she's arrested. She's arrested on charges of prostitution. So people who are supposed to safeguard become try to create a problem for her. And not only that, after a few accusations, when she is asked to bring witnesses to prove for her testimony, what happens is she tries to bring the teacher, she tries to contact the priest, she tries to contact the employer, the priest, and all those people. When those people also come, what we find in the play is everyone tries to blame her. Everyone, even the teacher, blames the character of the protagonist, Rita Jo. The teacher is also not very satisfied with the character, and even the priest, what Rita Jo feels when she meets the priest in the jail is that the priest is more bothered. She feels that he is more bothered about instilling the Christian faith in her, okay, rather than saving her, or rather than finding a solution to her problems. Even the employer with whom she works, okay, that that employer misuses her. He tries to satisfy his lust using her. In spite of that, when he comes as a witness, what happens is he tries to comment on her, saying that such a character like Rita Jo had wanted to become a teacher once upon a time. And at one point, Even the school authorities tell her that they have sent her certain letters for which she had not communicated, replied. And when she says that she has not received the letters at all, nobody hears her plea in the court. Okay, she tries to say it's actually the letters which are posted for the natives. Okay, natives in the reservation part of the country never reach the natives, because what happens is the postman uses the letters to burn his stove. When this particular truth is put forth before the magistrate is not ready to listen to all these things. So all these people, whether it's the magistrate, the policeman, the teacher, the postman, the priest, employer, everyone becomes a personification of supremacy against this ethnic woman. Okay, so next one is, we find that the play depicts a society which fails to provide an equal stand to women. Say, when the magistrate begins the inquest in the beginning, we feel that the magistrate is being very, very supportive to her, he is very cordial with Rita Jo. But as and while the inquest goes on, one finds that whatever he utters in the course of the course of the play, it doesn't match the society in which she lives. Okay, so the play beautifully depicts the inequality that persists in the society, and not only that, it tries to show how women are powerless and how they are always subjected to slavery. And not only that, the expectation of women, that is, every woman has to be a passive and some subservient being, is very beautifully portrayed in the play. And apart from that, every woman is assigned, max to a great extent, women are assigned traits such as irrationality, sensitivity, and obedience. And all these traits, all these attributes are there when we read the novel. When we read the play, right? And one more beautiful thing which is shown there is racism. How it tries to show, the play tries to depict how racism assigns an inferior position to ethnic women, how ethnic women have to suffer because of that. Okay, racism plays a major role in that. And now, let me tell you why I took Rita Jo as a figure, as a representative of ethnofeminism. It's because she tries to oppose the coercive authority of the state. She tries to tell the magistrate every now and then that she is not well, or she tries to tell him very directly in one of the places, saying that, magistrate, sir, you have to listen to what I say. Okay, so what is it? She is very bold enough. She tries to come out with whatever she wants to. She tries to express there, though she is suppressed. That's a different thing, I have to say.
Excuse me, madam. Excuse me, madam. Please try to conclude.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So she suffers dual oppression, and not only that, she is victimized and marginalized. She suffers a lot, and finally she tries to. It brings out her death. And Rita Jo's audience are universal, right? Everybody, every woman, she obeys the dictates of her inner integrity. She tries to listen to what her integrity says, and not only that, she tries to martyr herself. Her death also becomes a form of liberty, self-assertion, and integrity. She tries to struggle her gender identity and ethnic identity. She never gives up with that particular point, and that is why I felt that this particular aspect of ethnofeminism should be applied to George Riger's this particular play, The Ecstasy of Rita Jo. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Next. Yeah. Next we have Mr. P. Venkatesha, Assistant Professor, Government First Grade College, Karnataka.
Good evening, madam.
Yes, very good evening. You may begin your presentation, sir.
Okay. Shall I start?
Yes, sir. You may begin.
Thank you, madam. I am Venkatesh P, Assistant Professor of English, Government First Grade College, Kapu, Udupi, Karnataka. First of all, I wanted to submit my sincere thanks to all organizers. So today, I am going to present a paper on the topic, the urgent need of teaching English language, literature, and culture in rural areas of India, a critical study. So rural education system in India suffers from a set of loopholes, especially the absence of the English language teaching in the curriculum sets in the different levels like primary, higher primary, secondary. System in India was from a long period. English language has emerged as a global medium of communication over the centuries. Hence, it is a language of choice for different space like educational, economic, commercial, and social developments in India. In fact, it has also helped India to grow as a service-based nation from an agrarian society. Thus, the promotion of the English language teaching along with literature and culture in education in the rural India has been a significant importance for several reasons. So this paradigm shift is needed in the present scenario. Today's world is a global world. Every nook and corner of it wants to be connected and interlinked in less span of time. So in this world, language and literature are the co-sisters in one's life in any society or in any nation. If language helps to know and create literature, literature helps and makes easy learn and speak language in the life of human society. These two obviously and gradually bring culture and molds and gives an attractive shape in particular given human individual and human society. On the one hand, language acts as a connector and establishes a kind of relationship between two. Thereby, it works as a bridge to lessen the wide gap and bring everyone together. On the other hand, literature transmits culture from generation to generation and from one geographical area to another. It also gives a relief to mental stress. A person who pursues the literature deeply and correctly, so is none other than rural people, because literature in many terms deals with the society and nature comprising animate and inanimate creatures. Inanimate like mountains and rocks, so animate like trees and plants, birds and animals, etc. With these, rural people get a close contact and live with them and get first-hand information and experiences. Hence, it is they who understands literature very well rather than urban people. If we teach both language and literature simultaneously to the students of rural area, there will be definitely a manifold advantages. Culture is undoubtedly an asset to any given society or nation. It reflects richness and the way how fast the society develops in different ways in all its space. The present paper is about the importance of teaching English language to fulfill the ever-growing demands of English, especially in a country like India, where diversified languages are spoken and rural population is more. All inanimate creatures communicate with each other from bees and ants to whales and apes through sounds and gestures. It is only humans who have language to communicate with each other. It is they who have developed it consisting more than a set of systematic organized signals. That is why man is more intelligent and superior than other animals in the globe. Our language even differs in a physical way from the communication of other animals. It is difficult and impossible to say when and how the special talent of language was developed. Therefore, there is a generalization according to that its evolution must have been a long process. There is no particular and definite theory for the origins of human language, so it is remained today and obscure forever. As Bernard Campbell states, it is impossible to say when language began. So our ancestors were probably speaking languages through intimation a million years ago. That is why with a slower pronunciation, a smaller vocabulary, and a simpler grammar system than we are accustomed to today. At present, according to a study, there are about 5,000 languages spoken in the world today. Languages are linked one and the other in one way or the other by shared words or sounds or grammatical structures. In the beginning days, language was used only for communication purpose, but it has to multitask now. Today, language is being used to gain knowledge and to enrich the knowledge. Beyond of it, it is being used to create literature and to share from generation to generation in trade and commerce, to create culture and to spread it to other parts of the world. Language and literature are the co-sisters in one's life in any society and in any nation, as I told you. If language helps to know and create literature helps and makes easy to learn and speak language in the life of human society. So these two obviously and gradually bring culture and molds the life of human beings. So on the other hand, literature goes on to help for the transformation. So for that reason, that a transformation has to take very deeply, firstly in the rural areas rather than that urban areas. That's why that the English language, along with the teaching English literature or any other literature, very much needed in these days. So among the 5,000 languages in the that is English language has vital importance in the today's scenario. English language has a kingly place by encompassing the large part of the world. It is not only for communication purpose, but is also to be potential in knowledge and to protect and pervade the culture of one's society. Over the years, English has emerged as a language of choice for commerce, economic growth, and social mobility. Therefore, teaching of English language in India is much more needed than the past times. If you teach this English language, that will emphasize through literature and culture for the people of rural Indians. That's why that English language is very much needed. So here, the value of importance of the English language today is displayed in the diagram that I have given. So according to that, among the selection of the 10 languages, that English language is topmost. So especially in the internet era, this English language is very much needed, and that the rural people, if they learn English language, they will go on to so familiar with that internet, and they will come to contact to the whole world. That's why this English language is very much needed today. So then this English language is needed to be technically equipped. Schools in rural areas, usually of government schools, and the teaching of English alphabets starts from 5th standard. In the last few years, English teaching has been started from 1st standard unsuccessfully. Familiarizing at home is out of question, as either the parents will be illiterate or must have studied in their mother tongue. Extra tuition classes in rural areas are not conducted as in urban areas. Hence, they face difficulties in high school. So besides this, there are no adequate facility of technology to learn English language. So it is in vulgar situation of that English teaching in a rural area. So that the people of a rural area and their children are very much interested to study and to speak English language. So, but they are of shy and discourages to remove the kinds of that attitude. Systematic technical touch is needed in teaching English language. Mother tongue plays a greater role in building any child's career in a rural area. As English is a global language, it has become very essential to learn this language today. Moreover, students interested in studying medicine and engineering find it difficult and struggle very hard to learn when they come in higher education. So teaching of English language to rural students is difficult but not impossible, it is my opinion. Therefore, steps should be taken by all of us to teach them English, as it helps them not only for further studies and to get good placements in India and abroad, but so we also create some kind of interest in those rural people's mind. Then the second point is English language teaching so needs globalization today, especially so with the help of agriculture, in the field of agriculture. Agriculture is the biggest field which provides 70% of job opportunities in India. It caters all other industries running in the urban areas. So there itself, industries have to be established, and market and marketing people should visit the farmers, not only to urban areas. The people doing agriculture are the rural people. They born there and die there itself. They have the attitude of never traveling to other countries. So if we teach English language, so they will move from place to place, and that their agriculture will no doubt get globalization. During colonial times, British rulers often obliged the people in India to speak English rather than their native languages. So the behind of this Britishers' intention, so it was the reason. Although the origins of English as a global language has a complicated past, the language has left an important mark on media, trade, and business. Whether you are looking for a new job or planning to travel the world, studying English can help you. So not only to get the job and also to progress in the life of rural people. So then English language, so he's going to reduce the stress of migration. So the main trend in internal migration during the 20th century was the movement from rural sectors to urban sectors. As a consequence, urban growth, urban area grows since World War II has been very rapidly increased, particularly in developing countries like India. As a result, many parts of the agricultural land became cropless land. So this had effect on the economic development of India. Recent studies opine that much part of the rural land became non-cultivated land or converted into barren land. So economic contribution in these days, reducing rapidly. In the Indian economy, this phenomena of migration is not a very recent issue. It was there from a long time. So there are plenty of reasons for this migration. Few of them are lack of better health facilities, lack of earlier job opportunities in rural area, social security, social discrimination, landless issues, education discrimination, lack of good marketing for agricultural productions, so on and so forth. To overcome all these problems, so government and other people should take the responsibilities to give all these facilities in rural areas. So rural area of India is not barren. It is full of natural resources and rich in fertility. Because of this, many foreigners lived there and enjoyed here a lot for a long period. To overcome all the above issues, it is the responsibility of both central and state governments to encourage the rural people, economically and technologically and in other ways also. So that's why that English language is very much needed. So the other the point is English language is going to reduce the disparity. As far as English language and knowledge is concerned, there is a wide disparity between rural and urban people. It is nothing but the lack of opportunities of learning English language in rural areas. English language teaching and English medium schools and colleges are heaped in the cities only. So no educational institutionalists wanted to open such schools and colleges in rural places because their interest is business oriented, so in urban areas. So no governments show much interest for it. If they open such schools and colleges, it is only for a namesake. In no way, rural people's mind is inferior in learning English language so that urban people. So, but lack of facility. If you provide that kind of the facilities, they will come forward. So rather than the urban people. So there is a trend from a long time that English-speaking people are respected a lot than other speakers without social disparity. But village people are facing this kind of the disparity. So because of the knowledge, because of that less knowledge in English language. So English language helps to remove not only so that other things and these disparities also, and also it removes gender disparity in rural areas. So English language teaching contributes to restrict the growth of the disparity among the urban and the rural crowd if we introduce that English language so in an effective way. Then English language is also going to help to overcome the inferiority complex. If you compare the people of the urban areas and the village areas, so that village people are going to face a lot of inferiority complex because of this English language. There is a notion in our India, not only in our India, it is in world over. So if we speak English language, and they are going to be respected a lot. And if we are going to speak in other languages, like regional languages, that kind of the superiority or the respect is not going to be provided or not going to so be there. That's why so that village people are going to face a lot of inferiority complex. If you provide that the English language, that inferiority complex is also going to come out. So in the life of the village so people. That's why that English language is very much so needed. So that there are other reasons. So for the rural people, so if they learn English language, they will also going to expose that to the scientific temper. And so if they learn that English language, their traveling will be so wider and wider, and their business is also going to be improved. So all these, and also that they are going to get the different or multiple cultures through this English language. That's why that English language is very much needed. And so in order to teach that, the other second thing in my topic is to teach that literature. So that literal meaning of the word literature is so things made from letters. And the term letters is sometimes used to signify literature. According to Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary, literature is of writings having excellence
Excuse
of...
me, sir.
Yes.
Excuse me, sir. Sorry for interruption.
Yes. So, and or expression and expressing ideas of a permanent or universal interest. Basically, literature was classified into forms like poetry, prose, fiction, and non-fiction, whatever may be the forms of that literature. So if you teach all kinds of that literature to the rural people, and so it will help in different manners. So first of all, so if you teach that the English language, their knowledge of their knowledge area is going to be wider. So they are going to
excuse me, sir.
Come to know.
You're exceeding the time.
Yes.
You're exceeding the time, sir. Please try to wind up.
Okay, just 1 minute.
Yes.
Yeah. It's okay. So literature is going to widen the horizon of that the rural people, and the literature is going to give the pleasure to the rural people, and it also so that transformative and informative. So then that it also going to teach the humanity. So because of all these reasons, the teaching literature is very much needed in the area of rural India. So then we are also going to, if we teach the culture in the same way that the people of rural area are going to be widened in all the field. It may be that their attitude, it may be their festivals, or it may be contacting that other people. So that's why that these three, teaching English language and teaching that literature and teaching cultures, are very much needed in rural India. It is that might. So that is the thinking. Thank you, madam. Hello.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And here we come to SIVA PRIYA, ma'am. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
Yes, I think we have come to the end of this session, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. Of course.
Yeah. So now over to you, Anita, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I request Dr. CHRISSIE GRACELYN David to give her comments on the session.
Yeah, actually, I mean, almost all the presentations were really good, and especially, I love the one from some, just a minute, I just call it out. I loved a few presentations, right? From the one from Meghalaya. I couldn't just pronounce their names properly, but some Lashya, Duncan, right? I mean, comparing Indian literature. I mean, now, hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are, ma'am.
Yes, yes. So especially I love that presentation, and Dr. Shobana's presentation was also really good. All right, and almost everybody really presented well. But you know, when a time limit is given to you, please try to you know, concise it within the time limit. All right, that's what I would just like to tell all the participants. Otherwise, all your presentations were good, and you've taken a tremendous effort to, you know, write papers and present it. All right. All the best, and God bless you all.
Thank you, ma'am. I now request Dr. Shiva Priya to give her comments on the session.
I appreciate all the paper presenters. Each and every paper has a significance of its own. It's a commendable work by the people from Meghalaya. I appreciate their work. Each and every individual has put in much efforts to prepare the paper and present it. Hats off to every one of you over here. And dear participants, my request is always to keep up your time. Please stick on to the time. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. GRACELYN. Thank you, Dr. Shiva Priya. Thank you for helping us to run this session.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
ma'am. Dear participants, in the chat box, the feedback link and the attendance link is posted. Kindly make sure that you fill it within half an hour's time before the link is shut down. And for tomorrow's session, the link will be sent. The Zoom link will be sent half an hour prior the session. Kindly make sure that you check your mail and your WhatsApp for the link, and please do log in 10 minutes prior the session, and please to be punctual. Thank you.